Amanda? I'd like to call to order the meeting of the King George County School Board. We're going to begin with invocation by Pastor Davis from the Tabernacle Baptist Church.
Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, first of all, we want to say thank you for the wonderful privilege we have to come before the throne of grace. And Lord, make our petitions known unto Thee. We're thankful, Lord, for yourself, the Lord Jesus Christ, who made it all possible by His atonement on the cross, that we can come boldly and make those petitions known. And Lord, your word says for us to train up a child in the way he should go. And when he is old, he will not depart from it. Proverbs 22 and verse number 6. And Lord, we're here tonight with school board and the superintendent of schools, and we're talking about, Lord, children. And Lord, there was a man in the Old Testament, Manasseh, who prayed for his son, which was to be born to him and his wife. He said, Lord, teach us how we should do unto the child, Lord, the child you give us, how we should raise him and teach him and train him. We think about the responsibility of the home. And then, Lord, the educators in our community, that an extension of our home to teach and train our children. Jabez prayed, oh, that thou wouldest bless me indeed, and enlarge my coast, and that thine hand might be with me, that thou wouldest keep me from evil, that it may be not grieved me. Lord, we pray you would keep us from evil as we think about our children and their education. Lord, Prophet Ezra prayed, oh my God, I'm ashamed and blush to lift up my face to thee. My God, for our iniquities are increased over our head, and our trespasses have grown up unto heaven, or the heavens. Lord, I don't remember last time I seen a lady blush. I don't remember the last time that sin was called sin and wrong was called wrong. And so, Lord, restore the blush in our children's faces, that they will not be exposed to so much evil. The prophet Jeremiah wrote, were they ashamed when they had committed abominations? Nay, they were not at all ashamed, neither could they blush. At the time that I visited them, they shall be cast down, saith the Lord. Help us to understand, Lord, there's a day of giving accountability for teaching and training our children. King Solomon prayed, give therefore thy servant an understanding heart to judge thy people, that I may discern between good and bad. Jesus said, but whosoever shall offend one of these little ones that believe in me, it were better for him to a millstone be hanged around his neck than and be drowned in the deep in the sea. Matthew 18. Jesus said, woe unto them would the world, because of offenses. Our children, Lord, are important, and our leaders are important. Our families are under attack. And Lord, we pray that you would work in the hearts of our leaders and the teachers and educators, and that they would learn, Lord, to train our children in the way they should go. Because the Bible says that, Lord, what's training they get, Lord, it'll be with them for the rest of their life. They'll never depart from it. Lord, I pray for our superintendent of schools, Dr. Boyd. And Lord, I pray for him, and Lord, that you would help him to understand the importance of his job. I pray for David Bush and Ed Frank, Matt Rolls and Colleen Davis and Kathy Hoover, that they may understand the great responsibility they're called before this community to do, and before you, Lord. Because one day the Bible says every man must give an account of himself to God. This is no small matter, no small job. May we take it seriously Our families are under attack. Marriage is under attack, Lord. Men and women identify whether you're a man or a woman or a boy or a girl, and sex changes in schools and all the wickedness is taking place. We pray, Heavenly Father, you'd open our eyes, and Lord, that we might be able to understand right and wrong again. May we have a revival of morals in our country. And Father, without revival, there is no survival. So we ask in Jesus' name you would bless tonight as this board meets, this community comes together, discuss issues. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen and amen.
Stand for the pledge and also a moment of silence afterwards. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You can be seated. Before we begin with the recognition, I want to make a statement, an apology actually. And many of you might be here for the where it says the book appeal. And I should have added that it is to discuss the date and the process for the appeal. We're not going to be actually discussing the appeal tonight, and I apologize. However, comments are always welcome, and you'll hear the date if you're willing to stay for that. We'd like you to. And then you'll hear the actual date. I'm not sure whether we're going to have a whole separate meeting just for the appeal, whether it be closed or open session. That's what we're going to be discussing tonight. And I apologize, it did not make that clear on the agenda. All right. First, we have the recognition. Dr. Boyd?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. We have a recognition of Miss Maples and the King George High School Art Club from Miss Linda Kopp and the King George Garden Club. If you can come forward, please.
I'm sorry I have my back to people, but I guess I have to look this way. When my husband and I moved to Virginia 12 years ago, we went to the farmer's market, and I met the ladies from the garden club, and I joined on the spot because they were so friendly and so helpful. Now I find that they are very helpful in the community. We maintain several public sites in King George, including this area right here. And they were kicking around the idea of painting one of our members has a trailer that we use to transport plants back and forth at our two big plant sales, spring and fall. And I said I would take care of that because art is near and dear to my heart. And I have granddaughters that go to King George, and they're always talking about Miss Maples and what a wonderful teacher she is. So I figured she would be the person to contact, and she was. So now we have this beautifully, beautifully decorated trailer, which gets admiring glances wherever we go. And we're so thankful for Miss Maples and the work they did. And even though my granddaughter isn't in the art club, she was invited to help. She couldn't be here tonight, but she's sorry. She's playing softball. So I would like to present Miss Maples with a check. We want to make a donation to her, and we hope that this will inspire her to do some work for us next year. We've already got some projects ready.
Thank you very much. I also want to just recognize these are my students that have been in charge of the design for the garden club. This is Shelby and Tessa. All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Wait, don't leave yet. There might be, the board might have some questions. Well, questions of this, of the garden club, art club. Anna, yeah, there might be some questions, Anna, of the art club. So I just said, wait a second, we might have a board member might ask some questions. I mean, what you guys did is wonderful. Board members, any questions about this, the art club? Ask again.
Forgive me, but I didn't hear what she said you guys did over there. Sorry.
So the ladies asked us to paint the trailer for their garden club. They transport all of the materials from throughout King George. So they're just transporting it, but wanted it to be something a little bit more vibrant and special. So these ladies came up with a design.
So when we thought of garden club, we were thinking something floral and really pretty that would kind of stick out, like when people would see it in the road. So Tessa and I came up with a design for our garden club trailer, and we included the logo on all four sides. Yes. So yeah, that was our inspiration. Just really vibrant colors and a lot of floral design and leaves and a lot of pretty stuff. But yeah. You have anything to say?
Where's it located?
And on the back, all of us who worked on it put our handprints and made them little flowers and wrote our names in them.
That's cool. You didn't bring a picture?
Where is it located?
That's okay. That's good. Any other questions or comments, board members?
Just where is it located?
Right now, where are the trailer? Where's it located? Okay. Oh, all right. We won't give their address. Right. Good. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Oh, and have a picture passed around.
For some that don't know, Miss Linda, she's a master gardener in King George.
That's cool.
Right, Miss Linda? That's
Oh, wow. Well done. Good job, ladies. Maybe come back after a few months or when maybe sometime the early part of next year and tell us how things went. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much. All right, moving on. It's time for a public comment. And if you would, limit your comment to 3 minutes. Tell us your name and what district you're from. And again, limit it to 3 minutes. And the first one is, pardon? And your relationship with the school, sorry. Relationship with your name, relationship to the school and your district, and limit to 3 minutes. Pastor Sherman Davis.
Wow. Anyway, I am Pastor Sherman Davis, Tabernacle Baptist Church for the past 47 years anyway. And I'm old and still got set in my ways. You know how that is. But anyway, I vote in the Dalgren district. And I have been doing this ever since January, coming and reading a verse of scripture. In Proverbs, the Bible says in Proverbs chapter 4 and verse 23, keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. There are a lot of issues, and out of the heart are the issues, the Bible says, of life. The heart is the central of every aspect of your life. The heart. The heart of man is really referring to his mind, his will, his emotion. The heart is where everything is born. And so your actions, your conscience, your spirit, it is where all we do comes from. All of our decisions are made in the heart. Every choice, make you from the heart. And understanding what the Bible says about the heart allows us to comprehend human nature. I can't see the wind, but I can see the results of the wind. I can't see the Holy Spirit, but I can see you and you can see me. And it's up to us to be led by the Spirit of God if we're saved and make decisions that, of course, are proper, which may our attitude of ourselves or our opinion about ourselves may not be exactly what the Bible evaluates ourselves. The prophet Jeremiah said, "The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it?" Jeremiah 17:9. And so I can't read these sexual stuff because it's improper to read in public. I'm sure you don't want me to do that. But it's wicked, it's vile, and I can't believe that this is in our public schools. There are laws against child pornography, and I've defined the word pornography. It means it's erotic behavior, pictures or writings, material such as books or a paragraph or photograph that depicts erotic behavior. Pictures of writings describing sexual behavior depicts erotic behavior. Child pornography is illegal under federal and state law, and according to the definition,
Thank you, Pastor Dave.
we're breaking some laws. And I want you to know I appreciate the time, and I want you to know that I am tired of kicking the can around, and we're going to make some decisions about what's on in our school libraries, hopefully very soon. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Davis. Kim Dodge, please.
I'm Kim Dodge. I've lived in King George County for 16 years. And my relationship to the school is I'm a taxpayer. I'm a Virginia state taxpayer. I'm a local King George, Virginia taxpayer. And I'm a federal taxpayer. And how our government works, and sometimes we have to remind our government of this. We, the people, hire you, and you represent us. It's not the other way around. You don't dictate to us how we're going to live and how we're going to think. These books that are in our middle school are pornography and should be rated X-rated if it was a movie, okay? I am appalled that you're exposing our children. Parents put their trust in you to educate our children. When I'm looking at a book in the library, what is its a goal and what is the educational value? In these books, men are paying to rape young virgin girls. This is in our middle school library, okay? Now, if I was going to write a book and correct this book, I would take how we would invade these places that are in third world countries and in America, sex trafficking of young girls and women and children, okay? I would take it as we raid these and arrest all these grown men that are breaking our law. If you want to put a book in the middle school, put the justice and the punishment, not describe what's happening to these girls and nothing happening. And then going on to describe how the girls are committing suicide and like there's something wrong with the girl for committing suicide after being raped. Okay, it's men's responsibility to protect the women from rape, okay? And it's as adults, we are the adults, they are the children. It's all adults, okay? And especially the school board to protect our children's minds and hearts and from sexual rape. That happens in third world countries, but it is happening in America now too, okay? We need morals and values and we need to bring them back in the school. And when I look at a book, I want to, and it should be read. The federal government doesn't tell me, the state government, the local parents, it should be read, and I want to know, what are they getting educational value out of this? What is this teaching the child? Not mentally distorting them and making them have stress. And I'm a massage therapist, and we cover ethics and morals on that because a lot of times massage therapy places are also a place for sexual activity, okay? I will get fired, I will lose my license if I'm ever caught that way, and I have rules about what body parts I can work on and what has to be covered.
Thank you, Ms.
Okay.
Bill Davis.
My name is Bill Davis in Dahlgren District, also Board of Supervisors here in King George. I came here tonight originally to speak about the books, and then finding out in a sense that everything's getting kicked down the road a little bit. So I came here kind of mostly to directly talk to the board itself and say common sense is common sense. There's nothing that's going to happen in 2 weeks that you're going to discover that's going to change your mind or make the books any better, any different. Conflict is a tension between where we are and where we're supposed to be. And you guys have a tendency to run away from conflict. As human beings, we don't want to face conflict. We try to avoid the tension, but the tension is the growth. The tension is what changes things. No one in this country, no one who's ever done anything great in this world cares whether or not people like them. If everybody likes you, then you're doing nothing. You're doing nothing. You can't worry about that. You got a job to do. If you guys want to go into tonight, you guys want to talk about whether or not you're going to go into closed session or not. I'd like to know on what grounds. If there's not possible or probable litigation against you today, you have no legal right to go in to closed session. And by the way, this should be spoken of in front of the people so everyone can hear how you think. Who cares if you disagree? You're supposed to disagree. You're different people. You're not carbon copies of each other. You're supposed to have opinions. And you're supposed to express them so everyone can see exactly what it is that you think. That's why they voted you in, to represent them, so they want to hear what you know. Mr. Boyd, you have to get your employees in check, sir. You have to hold them accountable. We don't even enforce a dress code at that high school anymore. I see how those girls walk around dressed. I've seen it. And we have a dress code. No one sticks to it. And the reason why our kids don't respect authority is because we got a staff over there that does not respect authority. They're still doing things that you told them not to do. They're still ordering things that they're not supposed to order. And I want to know what the repercussions are going to be. I do not care. I'm going to do what's right. I challenge you to do what's right. The conflict is the tension. Cancer, if you get cancer in your body, in your toe, and cancer goes, well, let me just stay here. I promise I won't go anywhere else. A week later, you'll have it in your foot. This started off to kick God out of school. They started teaching sex education. So, oh no, this is all we're just teaching sex education. And it's growing, and it's growing, and it's growing. Where does this end? That's the question. You think it's going to end with those books that are in school now? This is the beginning. We're in the middle of the tension right now. You're in the middle of the conflict. And where will it be in 10, 15, 20 years if that smut's allowed to stay in there right now? Where will it go? And who are the men and women that are going to stand up and say no more? That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Holly Roberts.
I'm Holly Roberts, James Madison District. I'm a taxpayer. I'm not going to read excerpts tonight. I do not want smut books in our schools. I do not want pornographic instructional materials in our schools. This includes age-inappropriate, vulgar books and materials sensationalizing pedophilia. Make no mistake, these items aren't in the school by accident. They know they're there. They're fighting to keep them there, and they want to give them to children. They don't even want them labeled as sexually explicit. The item in the middle school that you will be discussing tonight isn't even the worst one that's been there. The one that you're discussing tonight is about prostitution, adults having sex with children, as well as passages about sodomizing little girls with sticks, children being drugged and raped, and suicide. And your middle school librarian and principal refused to label it sexually explicit for policy IIA, requiring an appeal to the superintendent just to get it labeled per policy. Policy dictates that only multimedia resources rated PG and under are allowed at the middle school. This book is not equivalent to a PG rating. It is well in excess of that. Also, as you already know, 2 copies of the sexually explicit, vulgar, and profane book, TTYL, were at Silston Elementary School. This material was available to 5-year-olds this year. This shows a failure of current policy. School board members, don't be afraid to take a stand against this evil. I wish this wasn't necessary, but please write policy prohibiting sexually explicit materials in the elementary schools. Please stop the ordering of more sexually explicit materials for children. Thank you.
Thank you. Colin Roberts.
Thank you, Bill. My name is Colin Roberts, and I'm in the James Madison District, and I'm a taxpayer in this county. I want to thank you all for working on the school board. I know it is a lot of time that you're taking away from your families, and I understand that you guys are working very hard to try to make King George County better. We know that all of you have good intentions at heart, and that's why you took these positions, and so I do appreciate that. I do want to read some scripture to you all, as most, if not all of you, claim to be Christians, just as encouragement as to where we're trying to get to together. The first passage of scripture I'd like to read is 1 John 4:4. As soon as I get it on my phone, sorry. You, dear children, are from God and have overcome them, because you are the one who is in you is greater than the one that is in the world. They are from the world and therefore speak in the viewpoint of the world, and the world listens to them. We are from God, and whoever knows God listens to us. But whoever is not from God does not listen to us. This is how we recognize the spirit of truth and the spirit of falsehood. Another passage I would like to read is talking about never growing weary of doing what is right, to echo exactly what Bill Davis just said. Let us not become weary of doing good, for in the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. That's an encouraging verse to me. And finally, as Pastor Davis stated and read from Proverbs 22:6, start a child off on the way they should go, and even when they are old, they will not turn from it. And that's an important point. That's an important passage of scripture, because what we see and what my wife has seen working in the prison system is what happens to kids that are exposed to this. They don't just, oh yeah, I got exposed to it, I'll just move on down the road. That's not what happens. They become sex offenders. They become violent. And she spent 5 years of her life working with these people. Policy doesn't matter if you don't hold people accountable. Your administration has, although your administration has deemed these sexually explicit, where's the principal? Where are the librarians? They don't have to follow the same policy that Dr. Boyd does. That has to change, right? And I want to encourage you, finally, if it's not you, then who is going to do this? And if it's not now, then when is it going to happen? God bless all of you.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. All right, we have made a small change to the agenda recently, where after public comments, the superintendent has an opportunity, especially if there's any questions he'd like to answer or make a comment related to the public comments. Dr. Boyd?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. We certainly appreciate you being involved in the process. It's exceptional to see everybody here this evening, and hopefully we continue that process as we continue to move forward and try to figure out what is in the best interest of our community, of our children, as we move forward. This issue with books is a very challenging one. It's one that is being seen in communities all across the Commonwealth. It's being seen in communities all across the country right now. There's really a multitude of camps weighing in on these issues, and we continue to hear what you're saying. We continue to try to appreciate and understand all the nuances to the many facets of the issue. So we'll continue to do that, as Mr. Bush pointed out tonight. I know we all look forward, well, I don't know about look forward to, but we certainly all will work on these issues with vigilance moving forward. It's a very challenging subject. I can tell you for myself, and I'm not speaking for the board members here, our governor ran this year and won on a premise that I think is very important when it comes to this conversation, and it's to empower our parents, to make sure our parents have a seat at the table, to make sure they have the ability to make the decision for their child. And personally, again, not speaking for the board members, I think if we continue to move forward in recognition of parents' decisions as it pertains to their children, I think it's a very valuable concept and one that puts us in relatively safe ground moving forward. So I'll stop there right now. I know that there's a ton more to discuss with this topic as it pertains to books. Thank you all for coming out. I certainly appreciate it. And we'll look forward to working with the board on moving forward. You want to address a question? You have a question?
Go ahead.
I don't know how this works, but am I able to give my statement too as well? I didn't know that people had to be called upon for this.
Do you have a relationship to the school and live here in King George?
Yes, I do. I'm a fellow taxpayer and I'm a family of Pastor Davis and the church.
Let me add your name to the public comments.
Okay.
And Jolene Weaver?
Yes.
Okay, there's no problem. Yeah, in the future, we usually have it sitting up here. Just try to come early and do that, but yes.
Okay, I apologize.
We'll let you do the 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, if I get shaky voice because I didn't know I was going to be timed, so just bear with me. We'll get through this, all right? Okay, hello, fellow parents, friends, and mentors for the children. My name is Jolene Weaver. I'm a fellow teacher, parent, and mentor myself. I taught in the public school system in the past. I still teach, but in homeschool settings for children while coaching sports to children as well. I have a 7-year-old boy and a 5-year-old girl. Once we were having children of our own, we had a major decision and sacrifices to make. Their education and development were and are the priority for my husband and I. Setting them up for the best success we can provide was the focus of our lives. We came to the conclusion that it was best for me to remain home to homeschool our children. It has been the best decision we have ever made for our family. We didn't come from homeschool backgrounds at all. We were both raised and brought up in the public school system and then on to college. There were many factors of choosing why to homeschool, one of them being what is actually being taught in public schools, what they're being exposed to. I have heard and seen books being read to children in kindergarten that were perverted to make them think and believe in a certain way. Many other absurd things you thought only were made up stories or put in movies, not in our school systems. Then after hearing that in this particular school, there are books having pornography and other inappropriate books readily available for students, I was completely shocked and disgusted. I didn't think it was real. These are the kind of things that are put in perverted, sick movies. Why are you allowing this in your schools? Would you be okay with your children or your family's children or just children in general borrowing and reading those types of books from the library? It's planting a seed that will lead to chaos throughout their life. Children don't understand it. They think it's funny and a joke to run to those books and of those types of books with their friends and laugh. We're the adults here, right? We know better. You are working here to lead children to be their best version of themselves so they can succeed in life. This is our role as a teacher, a mentor, a parent. These innocent children are learning the simplicity of right and wrong. And here we have this school where so many parents trust to send their children to continue learning from right throughout their years of going to school. What are we doing? I'm completely blown away with how badly the public school system is failing our children, the parents, and our society. We, the people, are the ones that make the difference in this world. We must stand up for what truly is right. Let's go back to the basics here, folks. Right and wrong. If you think this is okay and right to have these types of books in your school system, I sincerely ask that you reconsider your position in this school. I wholeheartedly thank you so much for your time tonight. I pray you immediately, without any hesitation, remove these types of books from your school system. If one objects, ask them to remove them and put them on their library shelf in their home. Make the stand for what is right. Without a doubt, I believe you all will do the right choice for the children. the parents and yourselves as the right mentors for the innocent children. I just helped the good Lord put a man in jail that sexually assaulted a 7-year-old girl. Are you really allowing this in your schools to help create monsters like him? I kindly thank you for your time. Jolene Weaver.
Thank you, Ms. Weaver. Was there somebody else that wanted to? Ken Stroud, okay. What district, Ken?
James Madison District.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Just
I was
need to
gonna
write it
state
down.
that. My name's Ken Stroud, James Madison District. So some of my comments tonight, you know where you fit in. You've heard it said that if you're not a part of the solution, you're a part of the problem. And I understand that by doing some research on the internet, it wasn't hard. That Miss Jessica Drinks is librarian for the middle school. Librarian's the one that orders these books and puts them in and makes them available to our kids. So Miss Jessica Drinks evidently is the one who was allowed to do that. And anybody above her in a supervisory position that allowed her to is also a part of that. As a leader, anybody that's in a leadership position above the librarian, anybody that's in a leadership position above whoever puts these books in our kids' hands as leading our children to the wolf and handing them over, and it's cowardly. I'm a sheepdog. I protect the sheep. I'm a Marine. I spent a large part of my life in the Marine Corps, and I can tell you that if you want to get on the bad side of Marines, harm kids. Emotionally, mentally, physically, I don't care. You harm kids, and you're going to get on the bad side of them. Whenever you're 2,000 miles away from your family and you find out that somebody's done something to your kid, I'm telling you what, you live for the day you can get back and get your hands around their throat or whatever you can do. I can tell you, it gets you upset. Whether you're on the school board or you're a teacher, you go home tonight, sit your family around the table and read this crap to them. Don't miss a word. Read every word to them. Because if it isn't good enough for you to read to your kids, then why in the world would you make it available? Why would you equip Satan in fulfilling his mission? If you want to read it to your own kids, why do you make it available to somebody else's kids? And if you don't stand up and do something about it, if you don't fight for the kids, you don't have a spine. Anybody between here and whoever put the books in those kids' hands is irresponsible. I'm not going to let you forget it or anybody else forget it. And I'm going to be here to hold you accountable for anybody who helps make that happen. And Mr. Boyd, whenever you talk about the other counties and other people doing this and doing that, you know, I could give two hoots about what anybody else does. I care about what you do for the kids in this county. And if you don't fight for them, find another job.
Thank you, Mr. Stroud. Kind of divided public comment up a little bit. Did you have any further thing to say, Dr. Boyd?
Sure, I got a ton to say, but so right now, any of these books that came to me are entirely restricted. What that means is that they are under lock and key, and as opposed to banning books, because nobody wants to be a book banner, these books require the librarian to pick up the phone, call a parent, explain to them what is in the book, give them the ratings of what is in the book, and then get a response from the parent as to whether or not they are comfortable with their child looking at the book. That's just so that we are all clear. That's where that stands right now. I can tell you, in my experience, I've worked on this for it's been over a year for sure. In our community and in this room, we might all sit there and think that we define good and evil, good and bad, sexually explicit and not sexually explicit the same? I'm telling you right now that if we were really to sit down and open up that conversation and have that conversation, we all define it differently. Is Romeo and Juliet sexually explicit? Some would say yes. Some would say no. Is the statue of David sexually explicit? It's a naked man. Some would say yes. Some would say no. There's great art value there. So this topic, this conversation goes much deeper than what's on the surface. We spent a lot of time as board members, as administration at the schools, to really try to figure out what approach is appropriate. It's a very challenging issue. I'm not up here claiming that I have the answers right now. I know that we'll continue to work on it. I certainly appreciate everybody's comments tonight. I'm sure they'll be very influential when we have to make decisions. And I thank you guys and hope you continue to come out to have conversations with our board members about this topic. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Any changes to the agenda? I have two changes. One is that under the presentations, there will not be a pre-K school facility presentation. So board members, you can scratch that. And then the second thing is where we were talking about the book appeal. It listed one book. There is a second book that will be in the appeal as we talk about the date and the process that we'll be using, and that's TTFN. So it's both the book sold and the book TTFN. Those are under appeal, of which we will discuss. All right, let's go to presentations. Dr. Boyd?
I do have a question. Should we make a change to the agenda since all these people are here and they want to know when we're going to do the appeal?
You mean to move that up on the agenda?
Yes. So
We can do that. Yeah, I can move it up to the top action item. That would be fine. So,
that's still going to be like another hour away, or?
Mr. Chairman, we just need to have this done. I mean, we can't keep kicking this can down the road. Let's give the public, 2 meetings and we'll have a decision. 4 meetings, we'll have a decision. But let's give them some type of a timeline instead of keep moving.
well, that's what we're going to do. That's what's on the agenda, is to say we're going to meet about this at this time and discuss all these things.
Let's right now, can we say we're going to have it done within the next 4 meetings? Or 3 meetings?
Why don't we do that? I'll move it up to the top of the action agenda items, okay?
Well, what are we telling these people?
If they can wait just a brief period of time,
okay,
we can move that up to the top of the action items. We'll do that. That would be fine. All right.
Be after closed session.
It'll be after closed session, which shouldn't be long, to be honest. I'm guessing maybe 20 minutes at the most. All right, presentations, Dr. Boyd?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we do have Ms. Tracy Alejandro here this evening from the new director of the Commonwealth Governor School that just wanted to stop by this evening and introduce herself and say hello to the board.
Thank you so much for having me. I did start as director of Commonwealth Governor School, which is a regional program that King George participates in with 3 other school divisions. I started last Monday. We did move out of Riverbend High School, where we've been located for many years, to Mary Washington Stafford campus. So that allows us to get into schools and not be located at one single school. I've also begun meeting with administrators and the site leaders at each of the schools so that I can get a better understanding of what their needs are. And I attended my first PTO meeting last Monday on my very first day. So one of our vice presidents is from King George. Some things that I'm working on, we are welcoming teachers back late next week to start. They start a little bit earlier than our regular teachers do. We also are hiring a school counselor. So we are in need of an 11-month school counselor. So if there's anyone listening or anyone who has any leads on school counselors, that's something we're looking for within the program. Also, we're having new student orientation on July 31st, where the students will report to King George in the morning, and then they'll come to a central site in the afternoon with the larger group. Also working on some board communication that will go through Mr. Rolls and then to you all as needed. And then finally, our first governing board meeting of the year will actually be held at the King George School Board office on September 19th at 4 p.m. We do have a member from each of the regional divisions that participates in that. And I just want to thank you for all the support that you provide to the program.
Thank you. Any questions from the board members? Thank you very much. Oh, did you have?
Look forward to working with you.
Yes, thank you.
All right, the next, the Tri-County Soil and Water Conservation Education Program.
Hello, hello. Thank y'all for having me tonight. I'm really happy to be here. Yeah, so my name is Madison Morgan. I actually graduated from King George in 2018. So I'm happy to come on back and, share some more information with you guys. So yeah, Tri-County City Soil and Water Conservation District doesn't get any shorter. If you try, it's just TCCSWCD, and we ought to pay extra for every extra letter. But yeah, so I'm here to share some about the programs and things that we can offer with y'all this year. So if you don't know who we are, we do offer 3 main programs, one of which being the Virginia Agricultural Cost Share. I'll be back in a couple weeks sharing some final numbers for that with the Board of Supervisors, of course. And we do a lot with King George through that. Second of which being the Virginia Conservation Assistance Program. It's for our landowners. And then I'm here to talk to you guys tonight about our free educational programs. We've had a lot of success in other counties. I've been in this role for about a year now, and I haven't had that breakthrough yet in King George. So I'm really hoping that this gets that ball rolling. I did say free. Yeah, so all this, it comes at no cost to your teachers, no cost to your educators, no cost to y'all. I'm here to work for you guys. The county gives to us, and we're here to give back. All our programs fit the same standards of learning that your educators are already required to teach through STEM. I'm teaching programs from Project Wild, Aquatic Wild, and Project Learning Tree. Again, all of which those lessons have a direct correlation with your SOL standards. I myself have a CTE, a little bit of an agricultural background. My degree is in agriculture. I'm really hoping, maybe we can work with the FFA program a little bit and get something rolling. So yes, a little bit more Project Learning Tree on that is rolls into our best. No, you're good. I'm sorry. Project Learning Tree rolls into that first bubble there, teacher professional development opportunities. I'm Project Learning Tree certified and would be more than happy to come on in and help out and show your educators some different lessons and tools they can use. I'm here to help them go outside, get things done. Effective education is one that really lights the kids up. They're excited to go outside and they're excited to learn about nature around them. I'm here for Envirothon support. If you don't know, Envirothon is a natural resources skills-based competition going over forestry, soils, wildlife, aquatics, and then a special topic. Of course, career resources. All of the lessons that I give will have a direct career relation. So if students aren't really, sure where they want to go with their life, but they have fun doing a lesson, we can incorporate that somehow. Youth conservation camp. Youth Conservation Leadership Institute. That's a great program put on by the Association of Soil and Water Conservation Districts. There's 47 of us. Not all of us have as long of a name as mine does. And then scholarships. The 2023 scholarship and 2024 scholarship awardees were both King George students. So you guys are already fostering great conservation stewards if you didn't know it already. The 2023 one went to a high school senior, and this past year went to a college freshman. So we're opening up. Those scholarships are going to be $2,000 scholarships from here on out. Those are some pictures. Yeah, so the 2 top pictures up there of the turtle shell and then pelts, those are from the Envirothon competition. The bottom left picture with me holding a spray bottle in the little town, that's an Enviroscape. If you're not familiar with it, it's a great way to show runoff pollution, how things are really affecting our communities. And as you can see, the kind of younger kids are watching, but last summer I actually partnered with Chesapeake Bay Foundation and the city of Fredericksburg to give this presentation to a group of college students. So this is a great tool. You can take it down as far as preschool, kindergarten, and bring it on up to our seniors. More professional development opportunities over on the right. Beginning of June, I got the opportunity to go to the Chesapeake Bay Foundation's training on Tangier. In that picture, me and a couple of other soil and water educators are marsh mucking. I did not get in the marsh, but it was stinky. So no, it was a great opportunity though. Learned a lot about just the history of Tangier and the history of watermen in the communities. My father's a waterman, so it was great to kind of get back and learn a little bit more about that, as well as bring home some more lessons for our educators. And we're covering King George, Stafford, Spotsylvania, and the city of Fredericksburg. I believe it's 86 public schools in that territory. So I'm really thankful to be able to bring that information back and share it with all the schools. So yes, please call me anytime. I've got my contact information up here. If there's any teachers in the audience or anything that would like some more information, I am very much open and here for y'all. So thank you guys again for having me.
Thank you very much. Any questions? No questions? The Tri-Counties soil, you also doing that one?
Yeah, I had sent in like 2 of them. I can go over the education programs if you want. I know you guys have a lot to go over tonight, so if it's kicking, I don't want to kick y'all's ball anymore.
Well, can you come back and do that?
I can definitely do that. Or if you want to sit down maybe with just teachers, I can do that. I can do anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we'll talk. Thank you. All right, let's give her a hand again. Thank you very much. All right, do I have a motion to go into closed session? And again, before we get the motion, just to let you know, I don't think we're gonna have very much. Probably won't be over 5 or 10 minutes. Do I have a motion to go into closed session?
Pursuant to State Code Section 2.2-3712A of the Code of Virginia, I move that the board convene in a closed meeting to review hires, substitutes, and resignations as permitted under 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We're now in closed session. We'll be back as quickly as we can. didn't want to, it would have taken more time to talk. All right, do I have a motion to return to open session? Here.
I move that King George County School Board return to open session and certify pursuant to State Code Section 2.23712D, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements under this chapter, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in the meeting by the public body.
Second and certify.
Certify.
I also certify. All right, do I have, excuse me, all the members who agree, say aye.
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 Chair votes aye. It's now we are in open session. Do I have action close resulting from the closed meeting?
I move to approve. What would we say?
I move to approve all the recommendations made in closed session.
I move to approve all recommendations made in closed session.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. They are all approved. All right. Thank you for being patient. That was probably the fastest closed session we've ever had. All right. We are moving the action agenda item up on the book appeal. And again, ideally, I had written to talk about the specific date and then also to talk about any terms of the process. And again, there'll be two books. So we have two appeals. I have the letters here from Dr. Boyd and also the appeal that was made that it'd be appealed to the school board. And there's two books involved, and that is Sold by Patricia McCormick and TTFN. I'm not sure who wrote that one. Lauren
Miracle.
So I had originally thought we might have to have a special meeting. First of all, in terms of closed or open session, I think if we can avoid saying names, I think we can have this in open session, and I think it would be appropriate so that everybody could hear it. We have to be careful not to mention any names. So feelings, let's talk about that before we talk about the dates or any further discussion. So do we agree we can continue in open session, or do you think names will need to be mentioned?
Question.
Yes.
Because I already can feel what Mr. Stroud's thinking over there. Is that law that they can't? I understand them not mentioning of the names, but that's a question he's going to wonder, is why can't we mention names?
I believe when we get into personal information about individuals, if we're going to talk about individuals of why they said that, why they didn't say it, and we start to, I think we get into a that's the area when we talk about personnel that we're supposed to do if it does involve personnel, which it might.
So we wouldn't be able to discuss names, but they can say names, or is there against them saying it too?
Well, this will be a decision by the board, not by them.
Yeah.
I mean, there may have been names that were said during public comment, which is not advisable, but that is up to them. But in terms of us doing that,
I agree.
and I don't think we need to go into closed session, but I do need to hear from the rest of the board.
I think it'd be utterly unjustified to go into closed session.
Okay, so everybody agrees, open session?
Yes.
All right, well, let's go ahead and take a vote on that. All that agree that, well, let's have a motion first, that we continue this, that we will have the appeal discussion in open session.
I don't think we need to vote, Mr. Chair. I mean, the presumption and everything is open unless we call for a closed session.
Okay, I agree. That's fine then. All right. All right, moving forward now, do we want to discuss a date? And I agree that it should be fairly soon because we've kicked this can down the road. And that's a term that several people have mentioned, and I don't disagree with that at all. So we need to do this soon. Any comments about that from the board? We start looking at our calendars.
I would just ask not to do it before the second meeting in August. So since we don't want to do it as soon as possible, then maybe we can just put our sights on that since it's two books. I think we're talking about, I guess it's not a question. Are we talking about doing both books in the same day, or are we going to start with one and then go from there?
You hear what Mr. Rolls is asking? Do we want to do both books in the same meeting?
Sure.
Ms. Hoover?
Yes.
Ms. Davis? I agree. I think we can do both books in the same meeting. We need to be prepared, but I think we can. So I don't think we need to, it looks like we'll go ahead and do that. All right. What about a date and a time?
Mr. Rolls, did you suggest the second
meeting in August?
August. Sounds good.
Do we need to wait that long?
I think personally I need that long to.
You need that long?
Just want to say that I've read the books.
All right.
I got a few other things going on.
Ms. Hoover?
Time to read the books again. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm good for the second week in August.
So second meeting in August, what's that date? Do you have that, Dr. Boyd?
Yes, sir, August 19th.
Okay, August the 19th, we will be discussing the appeal and both books. And you are all welcome to come back and make another public comment. Your comments were very much appreciated and noted. And yes, yeah, it does make a difference to hear from you, absolutely. And of course, we're sitting here, I know all of us are kind of like, probably we might be agreeing or disagreeing, but we, again, this board, we're waiting only because this is a pretty serious topic and we're trying to cover as much as we can, and covering two books at one time I think will be helpful. So, yes, go ahead.
Chairman, what, it says the appeal process. So is that something that we already have in play, or do we need to figure out what that process is?
Well, basically, we have, that's a good question. He asked, what is the appeal process? Well, basically, we have the decision made by Dr. Boyd in the two letters. If you want to look at them, I am both right here. And the person appealed his decision. Okay, and the person was very specific about what they wanted in their appeal, and that's what we'll talk about. Is first of all appealing the decision. In other words, that person did not like the decision that was made. And then we'll talk about what they would like to do, and then we will decide whether we will continue with Dr. Boyd's decision or whether we will change. And obviously, this is the last process, and we will make that decision, whether we continue with his decision or whether we will make a different decision. That's basically what we're going to be talking about.
Mr. Chairman, at the same time, is the board going to come up with some type of policy so this doesn't happen again? Some type of enforceable policy so that this doesn't happen again?
I think that would be a discussion we might add to after we make the decision about the appeal, we could continue with that discussion if it's the will of the board to do so.
I agree. Yeah. First, we should decide on the appeal.
First, we need, Mr. Rolls and I think both are saying, first we'll decide on the appeal, and then I think that's an excellent idea. We can continue the process. We need to be careful about agenda because this could be a long discussion, okay? Okay. And I want to welcome all of you. If you'd like to come again on that day to make public comment again, that would be great. I'm sorry, it's not really a time for questions right now. Afterwards, yes, afterwards would be just fine. All right, thank you very much, and thank you for your patience out there. And let's continue now with the agenda. Yes.
She's got young children. It's probably going to be later today, though, when we finish, because it's after the board meeting is what he's saying.
The date will be the same. No, that's all right. The date will be, and what was the date again? The 9th?
August 9th.
August the 19th at 6 o'clock.
Jolene, I'll get with you and show you.
All right, let's move on. Action items. First of all, we have the appointment of a clerk and deputy clerk. Dr. Boyd.
Yes, this excites me. So this evening, I'd like to introduce you to Erin Scalf, who is to the far left of our room here. She will be stepping in and filling the very difficult shoes of Cheryl Bushrod. You don't know how much you miss somebody until she's gone. And Cheryl, if you're listening, I miss you. So Erin will be joining us here on August 1st. She has a track record of being an executive assistant and was very impressive in the interview, and the committee that interviewed her was very impressed with her and her answers to all of the questions that we asked. So in her assuming this role as executive assistant, that also requires her to be the clerk of the board. So what you'll have in your packet is a recommendation from me, and my recommendation is that the board appoint the following personnel as clerk of the board and deputy clerk of the board. So specifically, that will be Erin Scalf, clerk of the board, and myself, Dr. Jesse Boyd, as deputy clerk of the board as of August 1st.
I have a motion.
I have a question.
Let's go and see if we have a motion, then we'll have a question.
I move that I recommend that I move that we appoint Erin Scalf as clerk of the board and Dr. Jesse Boyd as deputy clerk of the board.
Second. All right, discussion? Mr. Rolls?
Curious, Dr. Boyd, what was the composition of the committee that did the interview?
What was the,
You mentioned there's a committee that was impressed with Aaron, so I'm just wondering about the composition of the committee that you put together to conduct the interview.
you want me to talk about who was on the committee?
Right.
Okay, so on the committee to hire for this position, it was Dr. Wright and Ms. Yazerski and myself. We've also had Mrs. Gordon, who helped us pull together some of the applicants and things of that nature.
Thank you.
Any further questions? All those in, did you have a question, Ms. Davis? Go ahead.
Dr. Boyd might have said it, but when does she start?
August 1st. Can't come soon enough.
Any further questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Boyd.
Welcome.
Yes, and congratulations. We're very happy that you're here. All right. Next, the Parent Resource Center grant.
Dr. Howard. Dr. Howard's here this evening, and we will have a motion following her presentation.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for having me this evening. I have a cold, so excuse me for my voice. I just wanted to request that we have approval for a second grant that I wrote. Last year, we wrote the first initial grant to open the Parent Teacher Resource Center. And this year, I wrote another grant in the amount of $3,949.25. And that's to continue the progress that we're having. And with that grant, we will be hosting, with the approval of the grant, we will be using that money towards a parent family night that we're going to be hosting at the high school for the entire community to come in addition to purchasing a set of books that are We Both Read series that focuses on turn taking and engaging with your students with disabilities and those families to support them.
Yes, so Mr. Chair, if you refer to your agenda, I have a motion. I recommend that we approve the grant in the amount of $3,949.25 for the Parent Resource Center grant moving forward. So this has been a great thing for King George County. This is certainly a resource for our students and families that have disabilities, and it's certainly something that we want to see continue in King George County and grow in King George County. So I hope to have that motion. Thank you, sir.
Good. Do I have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion that we approve the grant in the amount of $3,949. Yes, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the grant in the amount of $3,949.25 for the Parent Resource Center grant.
Have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Davis. Any further discussion?
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Davis.
All those in
Appreciate it.
favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much, and you're doing a great job.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. All right, next we have the Standards of Quality Verification Report.
Ms. Christine Hill is here this evening, and she will go over, this is a process that we do annually. This does not require a motion. However, the chairman of the school board does sign off on this report annually, and Ms. Hill will cover some of the finer points of that report.
Hi, good evening. I just wanted to give you a little bit of background about the SOQ, or Standards of Quality report. The SOQ report outlines the essential requirements for K-12 public education in Virginia. They establish benchmarks for student-teacher ratios, instructional programs, and core subjects, and qualifications for educators. Some of the areas that the SOQ report covers are funding, assessment and accountability, facilities and resources, student support services, class sizes, teacher qualifications, and the instructional program. Each year, in accordance with the Virginia Code, the Board of Education is required to report the compliance of local school divisions with the Standards of Quality Compliance Report. In addition, other statutory regulations and budgetary provisions are also required to be annually certified, and that's through this report. The information needed to fill both the SOQ and the other reporting requirements is collected through the SOQ compliance report and included as a part of the board's annual report to the General Assembly. And this report is due in August, and it does require the signature of both Dr. Boyd and our school board chairperson.
Good, thank you. Any questions?
Yes, Christine, if you don't mind, what's the 40-hour clock requirement?
The 40-hour clock requirement, I'm not sure what you mean.
I just don't know what it is. It's here as number F, other than understand, 140-hour clock.
140
Right,
hour.
I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. The 140-hour clock requirement is a seat, 140 hours in a particular course.
Okay.
It's a seat requirement for students at the secondary level.
So we're saying that each student has to have 140 hours in the seat in order to pass a class?
Yes, or they can meet that requirement in other ways, depending on what our policy says.
Okay.
So we have a policy that outlines how they can meet that requirement.
What policy number is that?
I don't have
Can
that off
you-
the top of my brain, but I can certainly
Can you
email
send me
that
an
to
email?
you.
Yes, please.
Absolutely, it's in the school board policy.
Okay, and the charter school certification.
Yes. We do not have a charter school in King George County Schools, so we certify that we don't have one.
Okay. And then when you get to standard number 7, which is school board policies. Hang on a minute. Standard 7, school board policies. On 4 hours is page 60 on what we're looking at. Oh, where it was earlier. Let me see it.
Where are you looking,
I'm
Mr.?
looking right now. It's page 57. School board policies. The local school board develops policies to address complaints of sexual abuse. That's how it starts out. But then it goes down and it's got school board policies which have been developed giving this, I mean, this is probably 1/16 inch in letters here. But anyway, it has 1, 2, and 3. It has 3 subparagraphs. Then it jumps to 1, 3, 5, 7. So I'm not sure what's going on there. But it's number 7. School board policies.
Do you have a what I'm sorry, what the question what is the question?
Explain that school board policies to me, please, that are there. F- 57. You can't read it. I can't read it.
I'm sorry, I don't have the page number, so I'm hoping that it's the same page.
I think it's towards the very
Board
end of the
policies,
document.
Standard 7.
And to clarify, the question is you just want to know what that is.
Yeah, on
So
that first page there, it starts out with, it's got 3
This one?
items down, and then it jumps to another page. It's got 1, 5, 1, 3, 5, and 7. So, I mean, is
So-
there something missing in there somewhere?
No, the question on the compliance report asks, the local school board develops policies and procedures to address complaints of sexual abuse of a student by a teacher or other school board employee. So do we have policies and procedures for this? So the question would, so the answer is yes, we have policies and procedures that protect students against complaints
but-
against sexual abuse.
But follow that down to number 1, a system of two-way communication between employees and the
Yes.
school board.
So these are all school board policies, and we are attesting that we do have a system in place of two-way communication between employees and the school board, and its administrative staff.
Okay, at the bottom of that page, it ends with number 3, the standards of student conduct and attendance and procedures for enforcement.
Yes,
right?
so
And then the next page, it starts off with 1 again, then it goes to 3, 5, and 7.
It's 4, it's just cut off.
Yeah.
4, 5. It looks like 1, but it's cut off.
Okay.
I see the confusion.
It's so small you can't read
It
it.
does look like a 1 on
Yeah.
our side, sorry.
this is
Okay.
the way it prints out from
Yeah.
the database that we fill out
Okay.
for the state. And what we're attesting to under Standard 7 are school board policies. And so do we have policies that are in place for these different areas?
He was just
We got
checking to
that.
see
We
if
just need
it,
a legible copy.
yeah, he was asking, because it does look like on our end that it's skipping numbers, so he was asking if there was policies missing off the page, that's all.
Oh,
Yes, but also I'm under the impression that we don't have an attendance policy.
well, there is a student code of conduct that addresses attendance in it.
Do we have a policy that says that a student who misses 10%, which is 18 days, does not pass that class? And I ask this because I know that there was students, at least one, and I know more, that one missed over 100 days last year and still passed the class.
I believe that there's a policy that is written in our standards of student conduct. So this isn't attesting to individual student cases. And I don't know about that individual student case. That would probably be something that we'd have to look at as a team.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Any other questions?
Okay, I guess to clarify a little bit more, I think what he's asking is how are we up to code to this if we don't have an attendance? Because we were told there wasn't an attendance policy anymore since COVID.
Right.
Right?
We have an attendance policy.
So we have attendance expectations in the code of conduct as Ms. Hill presented. And I think what you're asking, that we don't have a policy about chronic absenteeism and failing a class. I don't know that that exists right now. I don't want to speak without looking at it first, but I don't know that I've seen a policy that is an automatic failure if you miss 10% of the class, if that's what you're asking.
I don't know. I've been through everything we have and I can't find anything.
Have you found one elsewhere?
No, I have not.
Okay. I mean, if that's something the board would like us to research, that's certainly something we can take a look at.
I would think we need something. I mean, we got students that are out there that are not coming to school. And, you know, they're still walking across the stage.
All right, Dr. Boyd, yeah. Mr. Frank, I think, is requesting that maybe an overview of the student absentee policies, whatever that they're in the code of conduct or policies or wherever they are. If you could, at the next board meeting, kind of give a brief report wherever any type of attendance policy, again, student code of conduct, board policies, wherever they might be. Does that sound good, Mr. Frank?
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hill.
Sure. Any other questions? I'd be happy to answer what I know.
So I'll just add, Mr. Franks, I think you were looking at the packet, right, where it was hard to read? And I'm noticing that in the board docs, if you click the links in there, it's actually much better, much more easily read.
Exactly. I think when you click on the first thing, it lists all those pages, Mr. Frank. It's a little clearer by clicking on them individually. Thank you, Ms. Hill.
Thank you.
All right. Next is the Academy of Technology and Innovation tuition. Dr. Boyd.
Yes, again, so this is an exciting opportunity for our students here in King George County. So this is new, therefore it will require a motion from the board as it is above $50,000, and we will pass that on to the Board of Supervisors for hopeful approval. So again, students from King George County Schools will begin attending the Academy of Technology and Innovation at the University of Mary Washington this coming school year. The tuition rate has been set at $8,500 per student. We have 7 students from King George County that will attend this academy. So this evening, I request approval of student tuition for the Academy of Technology and Innovation in the amounts of $59,500 for the 2024-2025 school year.
I think we discussed this quite a few times, but we have to have this motion. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the student tuition for the Academy of Technology and Innovation in the amount of $59,500 for the 2024-2025 school year.
Have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I was mentioned that we're spending money on this, but at $8,500 per student, our actual average student cost is over $10,000, I believe. So in a sense, it's a cost savings for a good opportunity.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Roll. I was expecting something different. No, thank you. You're absolutely right. And it is not only a cost savings, the few times that we've been there, we're getting closer and closer to it opening up. And each time I go, I'm a little more impressed at what they're going to be presenting, and these students will be able to take advantage of. All right. And no further discussion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. All right. Next is the increased adult meal price.
Yes, so Ms. Davis couldn't be with us this evening. However, as you all know, in the last few meetings, she's moving and shaking and getting a lot done with that excess balance. So I've got 2 motions from Ms. Davis this evening. First is we are required to increase the adult meal prices due to the community eligibility provision for King George Elementary School. This is a good program. King George Elementary School will be the first CEP school for King George County. And what that means is if you are a CEP school, all students at that school will eat breakfast and lunch at no charge. This has to do with the percentage of free and reduced lunch students that attend that school. The students will also receive dinner at no charge starting in mid-September. Currently, the adult lunch price is $3.85, and in order to qualify for this program, the minimum adult price for the CEP program has increased to $4.65 for lunch for adults. So I would make the recommendation to approve the increase to $4.65 for the adult lunch moving forward.
Can I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the increase to $4.65 for adult lunch.
I second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Next, I believe there's another one, Dr. Boyd.
Yes, sir. So again, this is what I was referencing earlier. The school nutrition department is requesting the following funds. Again, this is from that access account, the excess account that she's raised through this. This is all through the cafeteria fund. First, it's $41,488.36 for the addition of 2 open display merchandisers at King George High School for milk cartons and other cold items. Secondly, $96,083.60 for the renovation of King George Elementary School service line. This is an amendment from the original plan of service line renovation at Potomac Elementary School that is needed due to the predicted increase in meal participation at King George Elementary School because of the CEP program. So again, that's $96,000 is used to update the service line at King George Elementary School because of what we expect to be more students eating breakfast and lunch at that school. So the recommendation is to approve $41,488.36 for King George High School from the excess balance account, and to approve the amended plan with the relocation of funds from Potomac Elementary School to King George Elementary School in the amount of $96,083.60.
Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve $41,488.36 for the King George High School from the excess balance account, and approve the amended plan with the reallocation of funds from Potomac Elementary School to King George Elementary School in the amount of $96,083.60.
Have a second?
I second.
Any further discussion?
Yes, I have a question about what happens to Potomac Elementary School service line.
I think what the plan is still to move forward with the partial plan with Potomac Elementary School, but that's going to come after this King George Elementary School renovation, as I understand it.
How many students is coming over? I know that it's about 100, isn't that right? How many?
From the preschool,
Right.
it's about 100, 125 students.
Okay, and that's obviously, these are some of these hidden costs that are there.
Yeah.
When we make these changes, and I think it's good to make the public aware that sometimes they think, oh, well, there's some room over there. Yeah, but it costs money.
Mhm.
All right. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Ms. Davis.
Piggybacking off of Mrs. Hoover, how is Potomac Elementary going to lack from this, or if they are?
Say that again.
It's going to affect Potomac Elementary.
I think in the short term, it'll just slow their project up a little bit. I'll see if Ms. Davis can speak to that in the future. But again, remember this excess funds balance account that she had was well over $1 million that comes out of, it's not in our general fund, it's out of the cafeteria fund, which is separate. And she's working these funds in order to satisfy these projects as soon as she can.
So these funds are going to go towards the King George Elementary service line because of the preschool coming over.
Preschool coming over and that new CEP program is probably going to have every student in that school eating a breakfast, lunch, and potentially a dinner starting in September.
Nice, okay.
Yeah, it's
a significant
a great thing.
Right. And kudos to Ms. Davis. She does a great job in finding funds. Every time she comes up there, said, I've been able to do this, this, and this, and I have an extra, $1 million just to use for cafeteria stuff, but still, that's nice to hear. All right, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Boyd, for that presentation. Next is the GCBAE.
Yes, so I'm asking for approval this evening. This is in our policy manual and it's listed as an exhibit. So this, if you reference your packet, this is our exhibit in our policy manual that shows every single stipend that we pay. And really this is a bit redundant because we visited this many, many times over in the budget process. It's also part of payroll now. And really at this point, we're just updating this exhibit. I will tell you that in looking in other places and at other school divisions, this exhibit doesn't exist. So to be honest with you, it's something that we could, if you desire, and you can take a look at it and see what it shows. In many school divisions, this is not something that is part of the policy manual. It's something that we could include elsewhere. If you've noticed, our salary scales are available on our webpage, and maybe this is something that we could put there. But it doesn't have to be an exhibit that we update every year. So in talking with HR, I told them that I'd come to you this evening. I think after reviewing this, and of course it's at the pleasure of the board, but my recommendation is that we don't necessarily need this exhibit. We can strike it from our policy manual unless we feel strongly about having it and updating it annually.
Okay, so this is really a discussion item, or it needs a vote if we're going to continue this?
We can do it either way. I would, well, here's the hesitation is that it would be nice to have whatever we desire to do in order when our teachers return, because many of our teachers are taking on these extra roles and responsibilities, and it would be nice to have this in order before they get back. I think we have one of two options. We can approve it as is. It's an exhibit that was included, I think it goes all the way back to 2000. And if you remember our conversations, and I know Mr. Frank has talked about this a number of times, those stipends haven't been updated since probably 2000. So we would look at it annually every year and not change anything and just pass it forward. In looking, many school divisions don't have this exhibit at all in a policy manual. So in talking with HR and doing some research, I think it would be our recommendation that we strike it from our policy manual. Unless the board feels strongly enough about wanting to keep it, then we can certainly leave it in there. Like I said, some of the possible suggestions would be to include this information on our webpage where our salary scales are so that people can reference it there. It's not a policy and it doesn't need to be in our policy manual.
I have some thoughts, but I want to hear from the rest of the board first. Thoughts about this? First of all, if it's an exhibit, just to clarify, if it's an exhibit, it is there. It's listed as an exhibit, part of our policy. It's -E, and that's the reason why.
That's correct.
If we strike that, then it would not be there. So if we struck that, where would it be, or where would they see it?
I think it would most appropriately fit on our webpage close to where we have our salary scales.
Okay, so that would be, yeah, I know your pleasure of the board, but that would be kind of your recommendation is maybe strike it from policy and put it on the website?
That makes the most sense to me.
All right, other thoughts?
How often would we address increasing the stipend so we don't get to 25 years again? I mean,
Yeah, that's the pleasure of the board. And again, that would be something that we would work through in the budget process. So if the board desires to continue to address our stipends moving forward, then we'll probably begin talking about that in the next few months, honestly, on what our desire is with the budget moving forward. So again, to recap, what we did this past year was we increased those stipends about 20% across the board, and we standardized them, which was also a good thing because we wanted to make sure that the stipends that over time at King George Elementary School that had differed were the same stipends that existed at Sealston Elementary School. And we created some level of standardization when it came to those responsibilities and what we paid for those responsibilities.
Hey, thoughts with that?
Yeah, I'll also mention that with the constant printing of money and you get inflation at about a 3% rate, you expect prices to double between 20 and 25 years. So 20 years, I mean, a 20% raise is really modest. So
yeah,
and I definitely looking at this. My main thought was, it's ridiculous to just be passing this every so often. So what we should be doing is just have an automatic cost of living adjustment. Whatever we approve for everyone else applies to the stipends as well. So it's just done. It's kind of my thinking. Whether however we do that.
Others?
I'm just a little confused, not because of anything you said, Dr. Boyd, it's just me. Why do we want to take it off?
Because it's redundant, honestly. I mean, we worked through this in the budget process. We've already approved all of the stipends. This evening, we're just approving.
And then we got to go back and change it every year. Well, it hasn't been changed in 25 years.
We don't approve.
Yeah, so it's going to be, I just got a text message from a different board of supervisor, not related to me, asking about transparency, but it's going to be on our webpage. And then I guess the other question is say you're not here, is it going to leave it to anybody to be able to change those price or the cost or what's given, the stipends? Are they going to be able to change prices randomly throughout the year? Now, when I say prices like I'm shopping, but stipend, change the amount.
It would be
no. So you're asking.
You take it out of policy, I guess, is what I'm saying, and you put it on I'm just trying to understand.
Part of the budget
It'll
approval.
be part of the budget process. So we'll see.
Well, yes, but just like Miss Anita, that was part of the budget, but she's able to move money around. Would they be able to take money and move it around without like coming before the board?
No, it'd have
Miss
to go.
Davis money is not in the budget. That's federal money.
Okay.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. So no, we will still have these stipends listed, just very similar to our salary scales.
And that just leaves it open to be able to adjust it when.
It's open to the public. I mean, it's open to the public either way, in both ways. If it's just redundant right now, this being in the policy manual in lieu of being online is probably more difficult for the public to find, but it's something at this point that we've already approved. We're just approving the exhibit for the items that we've already approved through the budget process. I think this information, to your point, is pertinent to those considering these responsibilities. So having it available online is important, and we could guide our employees to that location. I think having it right now in the policy manual.
It's kind of more transparent online because then they can just look at it and say, oh, that's what I would make if I do it now. Or yay, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's good discussion. Do I any more discussion or a motion?
I mean, these
I
don't
have some
change unless we change them.
Go ahead. Mr. Frank?
Mr. Rolls?
I mean, Ms. Davis is just asking, possible these get changed more easy if we take it off here. But no, I mean, same as the teachers' salaries. Those get changed when we change them during the budget cycle. So that's board action.
Right.
I've got some questions about some of the stipend amounts, but we'll take care of those during the budget session.
Okay, so the real question up here is, do we remove it from policy and put it on the webpage? I think that's the bottom line.
That's the bottom line.
Do I have a motion or another?
I move that we strike, let me scroll up to it, policy GCBA-E and instead handle stipends in a similar fashion to that we handle other salaries.
Okay, so you want to strike it from the policy. Do we want, we're going to make a second motion of where we're going
I
to?
said handle it similarly to the way we handle salaries. Just putting to the
Just
website.
putting it on the website.
Publicize online.
So publicize, yeah, I would add publicize it online or whatever. That just makes it. So your motion is to strike it from the policy and publicize it like we do everything else online.
Right.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for.
Well, I guess my one question. So that doesn't necessarily make it. I guess here's the question. So what direction did you have, or I guess really past superintendents have, that the stipends, they didn't get the cost of living adjustment simply because it was in here, and so that's why it was considered separate and insulated?
Yeah, I just know that anywhere I've ever been, they've always been flat amounts. Not that I'm opposed to that idea. I think that's certainly a good idea that we could discuss moving forward, having it be the same increase that maybe our salary is. But again, that's the decision of the board. I just know that in the past, whether it be here or other places, usually that's a flat amount. You get this much for coaching basketball. You get this much for being a grade level chair, and so on.
But we can discuss that during the board, like Mr. Frank was saying. He has some ideas too. We'll discuss that during the budget process. But that's a good comment, Mr. Rolls.
There's nothing currently explicitly written that that prevents
No,
doing that?
not that I know of right now.
Mm-mm. All right, moving on. We have where are we? Recognition of gender and student registration forms.
Yes, Mr. Chair. So again, I was guided by the chair to look into our current student registration process. Offers those registering the opportunity to choose male, female. At one time, I think it was mentioned that it said non-binary. In the policy, or excuse me, in the student record collection, it's listed as other. So I'm not sure. In speaking with Ms. Webb, who does all of our record collection and manages our Power School and does an amazing job of it. Right now, the three categories that the state requires, and again, that's through the VDOE specifications for completing the student record collection. So again, I just gave you an excerpt. If you look at your packet, you can see just a small excerpt of that document. That document, if I remember correctly, is somewhere between 60 and 70 pages long. What it does is takes every single area where data can be input, and through the document, it gives you every single designation or choice you have in that data field and the required places where information is included. So the state requires us to offer three categories, and currently those three categories that we have to report back to the state through the student record collection, which we do annually, is male, female, other right now. So we're required by the state to report that information back.
So this is a state requirement, whether we agreed with it or not. It's a state requirement.
In terms of the student record collection right now, that is.
I'm looking at the form, and under there where it says edit checks, what does that mean, valid gender code? Do you have any idea?
Edit checks for gender code valid. The way I read that, and again, I had that same question, is when they evaluate or what's the word I'm looking for? Audit our information. What they're auditing there is that there is a valid gender code in that category. So that valid gender code would be MF, or currently the other category is listed for whatever reason as A.
You know, the reason why we ask you to put this, I asked you to put it on the agenda, is there was a concern by a board member. And so this is still a discussion, but thank you for that explanation. And basically it's a requirement of the state, actually federal government, when it comes to similar forms.
And hopefully that suffices. If you have any more questions or want me to dig any deeper, I certainly can do so.
Mr. Rolls, do you have a question?
So we, what's the change here? Like, when did the change happen?
Change.
This document it's an updated February 2024 date. Is that what you're asking?
Is that when other was added, or?
I would assume so. Were you saying that you noticed the reference to non-binary? Is that what you're asking?
Well, I'm just,
No, there was I believe, and I don't know how far back it goes. Those three classifications have been there for some time. I don't know. Are you asking if when this particular document was updated?
how far back did they have more than just male and female?
Oh, okay. I can research that. I'm not sure though.
And we can probably guess when that might have been. Any other questions?
So I was the one with the concern, but I don't remember saying non-binary, but to me, other is,
Yep.
there's only two genders, so that was my concern as well. I don't want to be one that caters to that kind of stuff, but if we have to, then we have to.
Yeah, I think these one of these things, it's a state requirement.
Only because
Okay,
it's
so we have to
science.
report to them, but like for us, if somebody is in a bathroom and thinking the wrong bathroom, what documentation do we have to say what sex they are if they say one thing and we need something official? That's all there is?
We're gonna go. All right. So the question is that
Do we have any other records?
we don't reference. I don't think that we've gotten to a position where we're referencing the student record collection to find out who's in the bathroom. Is that what you're asking?
I mean, if somebody claimed that they belong in the boys' bathroom and there's some contention about that, I mean, was there some sort of official
Yeah.
record of?
Fortunately, to my knowledge, I don't think we've had that in King George yet. To my knowledge,
I think what you're asking is if that did happen,
Yeah, where would you?
where's the fact or where's the form they filled out that said they checked that box? And you're saying
and
it
I can
might be
so
this
so
form.
those those guidelines are still very much up in the air. If you guys remember, we had some guidelines from Northam, then we had some updated guidelines from Governor Youngkin, and I think they continue to go through the court process, and we're trying to work through them right now. I can tell you from a practical standpoint, number one, this isn't something that we deal with greatly in King George County. You know, I'm originally from Northern Virginia. It's something that's probably more prevalent up that way. If it were to ever happen, I can tell you right now, once again, it's going to be a case-by-case judgment. We're going to call that student in. We're going to call that student's parents in and make sure that student parent is aware of the request or whatever the situation is. I can tell you that's probably one of the major differences between the Northam recommendations and the Youngkin recommendations was to include the parent in the process, making sure they are aware of maybe what their child is contemplating or considering. And I think that's a very, very important step. Unfortunately, I'm speaking a bit hypothetically because it's not really something that we've dealt with in great detail.
I think moving on, I think first of all, we have a policy, a non-discrimination policy, which we did talk about some detail about a year and a half ago, which I'm sure will come up again. And then Mr. Rolls here is saying, okay, at what point is there, does this trump that, or where do they say that they're going to be other or whatever? And I think we have to look at all of that if a student was to, claim that particular category. All right, if there's any other questions, or can we move on? All right, let's move on. We've already talked about the appeal process, so next is the King George School Board Resolution Referendum. And I know that we've all looked at this. Dr. Boyd, you want to give us a little bit of detail before we have the discussion?
I certainly can. I had an email message from our county attorney, Mr. Stewart, requesting that the board consider the motion before you this evening. Again, what this is according to Mr. Stewart, a requirement prior to the, I think the desire was for the school board to review it and approve it this evening so that the Board of Supervisors could take a look at it tomorrow evening. And again, this is in reference to keeping us on the Board of Supervisors desired timeline as it relates to the referendum in the fall. So again, if you remember these conversations, the desire right now from the Board of Supervisors is, as it relates to our pre-K through 5 elementary school desire to build an additional school, the Board of Supervisors would like to place that on a referendum. And in order to do that, the way I read Mr. Stewart's email was that this particular resolution would need to be passed by the King George County School Board and then passed again by the Board of Supervisors tomorrow evening.
Okay, I think before we even entertain the possibility of a motion, there might need to be a little bit of discussion even before a motion to be sure we understand some things. I have several comments I want to make, but I would like to ask other board members, any comments specifically? Let's read what they're asking us to do. And that is in that third paragraph when it says, therefore be resolved that the school board pursuant to the code 15.2, 2640 of the Code of Virginia 1950 as amended, requests the Board of Supervisors to request the Circuit Court of the county to order an election in the county on the question of authorizing the county to contract a debt. So those are the wording. They're asking us to approve this resolution saying that we want the Board of Supervisors the court through the Board of Supervisors to order an election or order the referendum. So discussion.
Yes, so I was at the Board of Supervisors meeting when they were discussing this, and I just want to let y'all know something that they said on why this would be a good idea. I'm not saying I agree with them, I'm just telling you what they said. That we would get a better interest rate if the county approved of it. Like the county residents voted on it, that they stated that we would most likely get a better interest rate on it.
Other thoughts, comments, questions?
So what we're voting for, just to be clear, is that we want this to be a question at election time for the residents, correct? For clarification, okay.
Yeah, they want us to basically, when I first heard this at the Board of Supervisors and it was recommended that they would put this to a referendum, I immediately thought, oh, the Board of Supervisors is going to do that and have this as a referendum. I didn't know until recently that it has to come originally, it sounds like from us as I read this, that we are going to be asking the county courts to have this, obviously through the Board of Supervisors. And I just think personally, I look at this as, I don't like the idea of voting for something without having the knowledge of what's going on. And I'm afraid that if the residents of the county was to vote on a referendum for $50 million, you're going to have a lot of thoughts and them not having the information really to be able to vote on those kinds of things. First of all, I totally agree that we need to inform the residents of King George about this. This is a lot of money and it will involve taxes and everything else. But I think that could be done through town meetings, through forums, through all kinds of other processes. Because if we put it to a vote, then basically you're voting for something without them having the knowledge of what that means, which I would, that to me would be done like in a town hall meeting. People say, oh, I don't like this. We'd explain the need for it. We'd explain what's happening with the schools and how we're going to be overcrowded in 2 or 3 years. There's going to be a major problem. And if we don't do something now, we're going to end up having to buy portables and all kinds of stuff. That's a give and take, and it would be giving the residents knowledge. And if they had all of that knowledge ahead of time, then I would say sure. But they don't. And I'm afraid this referendum, and you have people who don't even have children. And if it didn't pass, what does that mean? There's a huge question of what the Board of Supervisors would do if it didn't pass. And personally, I don't know whether it would pass or not, but I'm worried that they'd be voting on something they don't have enough information about. Anyway, that's my thoughts. Others, board members.
Mr. Chairman, I was also at the Board of Supervisors meeting when they discussed this, and if I remember correctly, it was unanimous. You guys have already voted unanimously to do this referendum.
No, Bill didn't vote.
Okay, well, then it was 4-1 to do this referendum. So I don't understand why we're being asked to initiate this now when it's already been voted on by the board.
Virginia.
I believe it's Code of Virginia. I think it's the law, is what I understand from the lawyer. Is that correct, Dr. Boyd?
Yeah, so again, all I can reference right now is maybe more specifically some of the verbiage in the email. It says a resolution from the school board is needed in order for the Board of Supervisors to move forward with the bond referendum. The Board of Supervisors can then adopt their resolution, petition, and order at their meeting tomorrow night, but we must receive a resolution from the school board first. And then it goes on to say, I can forward all the documents, assuming it's passed to the judge so that it can be entered into the referendum for the November 5th, 2024 ballot.
Well, if that's by law, then that's one thing.
I don't see it saying that the school board has to make the decision. And I don't know if we're allowed to ask them to speak, but I just want to make sure that this isn't, I'm not for it, because if they say no and we need a school anyways, we still have to do it. So I'm with Mr. Bush here that we need to be open to the public about what's going on. I don't even know if I'm for our plan of moving forward of what we're doing, because I've spoken to some board of supervisors about a lot of things, and I'm just hearing different ideas that I didn't have originally. I feel like we're really rushing this decision because we need it, but it's just it was rushed for me, and I didn't have time to think about everything. So this to me looks like that now therefore it be resolved that the school board, pursuant to 15.22640 of the Code of Virginia, as amended, request the Board of Supervisors. So is that law that we have to request it to you guys to do the, what is it called, referendum?
I don't know if they can really speak on behalf of the board.
Well, we do it to their meetings. But it looks like, reading it, it's law, but Mr. Stewart's a very smart man. And so he would.
So is it literally that if we don't vote for this, then we're blocking the referendum?
I believe so.
That's
I talked to
surprises me. I would have thought this.
talked to Mr. Collins earlier today, and I believe
Well, they're not going to push what we don't want. They're not going to push it. If we're the one asking for the money and then we say, no, we don't want that, why are they going to go, well, we're going to do it anyway?
So
we want them.
It was a 4-to-1 vote, right?
We do need the money.
Referendum, though.
But it's the referendum. In my opinion, is the residents will not have the appropriate information to vote on this. That's my opinion.
I'm just not sold on the 57 million. I know that the schools cost that much, but I still want to.
And I appreciate that, Ms. Davis, but that's really not the question here. Is about the referendum.
I know I can't vote on a referendum if I'm not positive on the price.
Okay.
Would the referendum have the dollar amount, or would it just say something more generic like a new?
I assume it will have the dollar amount. Yes,
it will have the dollar
amount.
amount.
Because the residents, they wouldn't vote on anything unless they knew what it cost.
Well, that was my thought, Mr. Bush, when I first heard it posed about whether this is really the wisest way to decide the matter. Because you have the problem of a low information voter, and we definitely have to make a concerted effort to educate people. But I think it's probably pretty common. I think board voters don't like to raise taxes. It's a lot easier to do it if they say, well, the people told us to. So I can understand the desire.
Also, what if the cost goes up more? We threw 57 million at them, but now we need 90 million. I'm just saying, they built a new high school in Halifax. It was 103 million. So I'm scared to put a number on and tell our constituents, like, this is what we're needing, or how do you feel about it? And they're like, yeah, we'll do that. And then, oh, by the way, we need 20 million more.
Well, it doesn't have to be a referendum to provide funds for schools. I mean, I'm pretty sure the board of service could just do it themselves. So I don't know how that works where it says maximum of this, because you can always just go.
Yeah, they do not have to
more.
have referendum to.
Right, it's not required.
It's not required at all. I appreciate that the Board of Supervisors wants to hear from the community. I think we can all understand that. But it's just that right now this has to come from us, apparently, before the Board of Supervisors can move forward.
Can we put this vote off?
We don't have to vote on it at all. I mean, if there's no motion, then it dies right here.
I would just like to get more understanding from them and us. I don't feel like I don't know. I don't feel prepared.
It's the first time we've seen it, so I think it would be wise.
Yeah.
I just want to reiterate, and again, this is entirely the board's decision, but the way that this email from Mr. Stewart reads is that we're on a relatively tight timeline in order to put it up for a referendum. So in essence, if we don't vote on it or we vote in the negative on it, then I think what we're saying is that we don't want it to be on a referendum.
Well, if we do vote on this tonight, does that, because they didn't approve, the Board of Supervisors did not approve this yet, because they're unsure if the cost is legit, right? The last Board of Supervisors meeting, didn't they shoot this down?
I thought, oh, the last meeting, I didn't go to the last meeting. I don't know.
You were there with me.
Oh, with that one.
Sorry.
Well, hold on. I think there's two things going on here. One is this 57 million, which is what you're concerned with. But what is before us right now, irregardless of whether it's 57 or 100 million or whatever, is do we want them to put it to a referendum for the residents of this county?
But that they're asking us to put it a maximum of 57 million. And I've spoken with Mr. Stroud, and I've spoken with Mr. Davis, I've spoken with Mr. Collins, I've spoken with who aren't sure, like, I guess I'm confused from them. This is coming at us now, and I've had different conversations with them, so I'm
I
confused.
understand, but this is from
I'm not
them.
voting for it because it just came at me and it's confusing.
I understand it, but this is from them, so we have to make the assumption that since it's from them, this is what they believe.
No,
Why would they have sent it to us?
Were you guys aware that this was coming before the board?
That's all right. Go ahead, Mr. Stroud. You can go ahead and answer
He
that.
said no. He said no.
Were you aware of this resolution coming to us? You're right, but it would be valuable. Oh, okay. Thank you. That's good.
I can tell you Mr. Davis was too. He was not aware that this
You were not aware that this was coming to us tonight. That's what you're saying. That's true. Well,
And do we know what happens if the vote is no? Then what? Like,
well, we cannot, okay, there's two things. One, a motion can be made and then it be struck down. Number two, no motion's made, that means it just dies.
so that's not even what I'm talking about. I'm talking about if we put it out a referendum and the community says no, and we need a school, then are we just?
Well, that's a question that would go back to the Board of Supervisors.
And they just have to address it themselves. They said no.
Yeah, if the community said no, but yet then the Board of Supervisors would be between a rock and a hard place. Do they go ahead with it or not? But that would be their decision. But I think it's very apropos that we heard from two of the Board of Supervisors. They did not know this, actually three, if we found Bill. So if we don't have a motion, then it just dies right here.
A quick question. I heard before there was a 4-1 vote in favor. It sounded like in favor of this. Now it sounds like the board doesn't even know it was here, so that doesn't add up.
They didn't know this resolution was going to be.
The 4-1 vote was different. That wasn't about this.
What was it about?
It was about talking.
You guys about it.
I'm sorry.
I was there.
Where?
Right.
I was at the board meeting when they.
Yeah.
I was at the Board of Supervisors, whatever it was, joint meeting. I don't remember when you guys voted on it. You wanted it to be a referendum. I was there.
You were there when this was created.
I was there when they wanted to have a referendum.
I was too. Why is this on the agenda?
So if they're 4-1,
Who told who?
So this was directed
sent it to
from
you?
the county
That's what I'm
attorney.
asking.
So again, the way this reads is that
Okay, that makes sense. That's why, so I'm guessing Mr. Stewart figured when we voted on it, he probably did say that he would write it up and send it to the school board. What I wasn't prepared for is that it was going to be on us to whether vote for the referendum or not. And I think that's what they're saying. So that's where the confusion lies. Okay.
So do I have a motion or not have a motion? Again, if we don't have a motion, it just dies. If we do, then make it. All right, I'm not.
So, well, all right. So, say again, what, as you read the email from the lawyer, it's like a no vote is a no vote, essentially. It's interesting that it's that urgent, but most of the board of supervisors isn't even aware that it was going to be here.
No, they were aware of it. I got to rephrase that. And to clarify to them, they weren't aware that it was going to be the school board who had to vote it through first. They were aware that we asked for $57 million. We took that to the chairman and to the board. What none of us was aware of was that it was going to be up to us to pass the vote through, to put it on as a referendum.
So if I do not have a motion, then
Okay, I'll ask a question just for our members
ahead.
here. So it's, your impression was that the referendum was a done deal, was voted on and passed? Just weren't aware of the formality for us? Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. It's fine.
Feel free to come on up. So for the record, I'm David Sullins. I'm the at-large Board of Supervisors member. My recollection was that the 4-1 vote was that we would move forward with turning this into a referendum on the November election, and also included the county attorney, Mr. Stewart, saying that he would move forward with it. I did not, either I did not understand or he did not convey the details that it had to come through you guys first. So I was unaware that it was going to be on your agenda item tonight. I came to hear about the book. So, so I saw this and decided to stick around and see what's going on.
So pretty much the same thing he just said. If that night when we voted, Ken Stroud, Supervisor, James Madison District, if Mr. Stewart mentioned that night that it would then come to you guys, I didn't pick up on it. But a lot of times there's things that are said that I don't hear. But because I felt that night a rush in the whole event. And if I had made a decision that night to vote on it, I probably wouldn't have vote on whether to go with the school that night. I would have voted no. So I only voted for the referendum to really give more time for you guys to put that together. And also, because if it's going to be on our backs, which is what if you guys don't put a referendum forward and you're putting it on our backs, then that hill's going to really get a lot taller.
Yeah. All right. So do I have a motion or not? No?
Well, I mean, if I'm hearing this right, it sounds like the will of the Board of Supervisors is that they want this, and I don't know that I want to stand in the way of that. I mean, I think it's ultimately up to them to figure out how they want to decide this, and I don't want to take the option away.
Well, I'm sorry, but I'm always going to be against voting on something that I'm not informed on. If I was taking a vote on something, if I'm voting for president or whatever, I want to know something about him before I vote yes or no. So I just think it's important that there's other ways to, I think, notify the public of what's going on. So that's my personal opinion about this.
Sure, if it helps you guys' decisions. I believe our intent was to allow the public, let the citizens give them a voice in whether they wanted to commit spending money to build a school. So it's not that people don't want a school. It's not that the plan that was put forward was a bad plan. It's just simply saying that let the citizens have a voice and let them vote for it. And the citizens, we have until November to educate them as to what this plan is and whether they feel they need it. Personally, I feel there's a lot of data that needs to be collected and needs to be put forward as to why we need a school. Because if you don't have new housing developments, whenever the schools that were built and a lot of the numbers that are being used were based off of large developments that came into the county. You had Hop Yard, 800 homes. That's the largest development that's been built here for a long time. Unless somebody's aware, and those families, a lot of those aren't necessarily like newlyweds. They're not people that are starting a family, that are starting new students to enter into the school system. So unless somebody knows of a large influx of new students, of kids, new communities that we're not aware of, I don't know where the demand signal is. Where are these kids coming from? Unless maybe they're coming across the border. Where's the demand signal that requires the new school? And those are some of the data that's had to come out before that.
Can I speak to that for a minute?
Right, go ahead.
Amanda, can you pull that slide up for me, please?
Dr. Boyd?
So, yes.
I got a message saying that the board members that are here today are speaking for themselves and not for the board.
Okay. So again, this I think this initial conversation about a preschool predates all of us. In fact, I think maybe only Mr. Collins was either a school board member or a board of supervisors member when the conversation about the school board, or excuse me, the preschool originally started. Since then, what we've done is taken a look at, which to my knowledge had not been done in the past. Can you make that any smaller so we can see that far right-hand column? Is to take a look at where we stand when it comes to our capacity and our current enrollment and how quickly that is increasing. So we continue to keep tabs on where we are as a school division in terms of the seats we have available for our students. So this is a table that I think is going to answer a lot of questions for folks, and one I've showed a number of times before, but I'll do it in greater detail this time. So on the left-hand side, you see kind of our categories. You've got your elementary schools in total, and then you've got King George Elementary School, Sealston, Potomac. Then we have the middle school, the high school, and totals. And I think what is most pertinent to this conversation, and we can certainly share this, and this will be in the packet for anybody that wants to see it publicly, but if you take a look at those darker gray columns on the right-hand side, you will see the column I, which is titled 2024 Fall Projections. So those are the number of students in those particular categories that we believe will be attending those schools in the fall. So for example, we expect 708 students at King George Elementary School to show up in the fall. The next column over, column J, which is titled Blueprints and Documentation, we've gone back many, many, many years through many, many renovations, and to the best of our ability, determine the number of seats really that we can fit into our schools based on fire code, based on VDOE regulations, and those numbers are listed there. So for example, King George Elementary School can house 777 students. If you take a look over at the far right-hand column, what you see is the percentage of capacity. So currently, if you look at Sealston Elementary School, we expect 725 students in the fall. It can house 717 students. The capacity of that building will be 101.12%. So roughly speaking, 1% over capacity for Sealston Elementary School. What's concerning is, I know we're talking about no additional neighborhoods. From what I've seen, what we're experiencing in the school division, quite frankly, and this is my personal opinion, is decisions about neighborhoods and schools that happened long before we were all here. So as you mentioned, we're talking about 800 houses in Hop Yard. We know that the number of students in Hop Yard continues to grow almost by the day. Oakwood Estates over on Eden is another huge development that is creating a number of students that are coming into the school division. From what I've been able to gather personally, I know the desire from the Board of Supervisors is to slow that residential growth. But I think much of it that had been done maybe even 10 years ago now, we're beginning to experience much more in the school division to the numbers that speak to themselves on the right-hand side. We've made some modifications, which is important. I'm happy to say Potomac Elementary School, and I was going to mention this in my board comment, but I'll mention now. Any board member that would like to take a tour of the modular unit that we put up there recently, we're on the punch list now. It's just about finished. It's a beautiful facility. And so we bought a lot of space at Potomac Elementary School, but that building prior to the modular unit being there was at or over capacity. So this conversation is one that began probably 10 years ago about the horrid conditions that building was in. I think it had been mentioned that building, I think even to the Board of Supervisors, where the preschool students were housed last year, that building was condemned at one time. And then many years ago, somehow, some way, it was reopened. And again, any of our Board of Supervisors members that have taken us up on a tour opportunity there, the building's falling in on itself. So there was a quality issue when it came to the preschool, and we can talk a little deeper about that. I know there's questions about what students should be able to come, whether or not we should have a preschool for the entire community. Those are great questions, and those are ones that are important to have moving forward. Right now, I think if you look at the number and you look at our projections for growth, based on the fact that those communities are there and growing, we're seeing ourselves tick up rather quickly to 100% capacity. And you see right now, that's exactly where our high school sits. We've got 1,500 students expected in the fall, and that building, built in 2008, was built for 1,500 students.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr.
I think we're good. All right. This is the kind of information, at least that I was thinking of, that if the public knows all this, I think it would, if somehow all this came out either in town hall meetings or whatever, and all this was brought out, I think then it might be valuable to hear the opinion of the public once they have the information. All right, but right now, what is before us is this resolution. So we need to move forward with this.
So whereas the King George County School Board, the school board of the county of King George, Virginia, the county, deems it necessary for the efficient operation in the best interest of the school system to acquire, design, and construct a pre-K through 5th grade elementary school on the property located at 8562 Dahlgren Road, King George, Virginia, to replace the old middle school, the project. And whereas the school board desires the board of supervisors of the county, the board of supervisors, to contract a debt and issue general obligation funds of the county to pay for such project, now therefore be it resolved that the school board, pursuant to 15.2-2640 of the Code of Virginia of 1950 as amended, request the board of supervisors to request the circuit court of the county to order an election in the county on the question of authorizing the county to contract a debt and issue general obligation funds of the county a maximum amount of $57 million for capital school improvement purposes, including the project as may be required by the actual educational needs of the county.
Do I have a second with this motion? Motion has been seconded. Discussion.
That was a very wordy motion.
He read it from, yeah.
I didn't see that. I must be looking at something different. That's not the motion that I saw. So, there's the,
So, I mean, I'll just say that, yes, the whereas that we recognize that we need a pre-K through 5th grade elementary school, which we've already voted on. We said that, so that's true. And then we need money to do that, which is the second point. We need money, and the board of supervisors are going to get it. So, I might, first when that first was pitched, I wondered, is a referendum really the best way to do that? Honestly, I did think that, just like Mr. Bush. But I kind of think it's more the board of supervisors' place to figure out how they want to raise that money or move on it, and they evidently voted 4-1 for that. I don't really feel justified or strongly enough about to stand in the way of them doing it that way if that's what they want. But I do agree that our role, even after this, can be education if we want to help it succeed.
Other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, the bottom line is that we've got our most vulnerable kids that have no place to go right now. And that's, I think, is the important thing that's out there is, we can't be, I'll use this term, paying, if we are playing politics here, we're playing it with our most vulnerable kids that are there.
Any other discussion?
is there any way that we can move forward with this and in the time in between, educate the community? Why do we have to hold off on this? We can still educate them before November.
It'd be a process of how we do that.
Mr. Rolls, you did a good job explaining that to me. That you made a really good point just now that stuck to me because we did take this before the Board of Supervisors. We're the ones asking them to raise the money to provide for the school, that we need this. And who are we not to back them up when they're saying this is what we need you to do in order to do that? My only concern with the referendum is if we could change the wording of maximum on there, because I don't want to ask the county constituents for a maximum amount of this money and then turn around and ask them for more. So I'll vote for this to move forward just because I want to be a team with our Board of Supervisors on what's best for our community and our children. So thank you for that, Matt. Ms. Rolls.
Could we put estimated? And I wanted to thank Mr. Frank for that comment as well, because that's exactly what we did when we walked around and we looked at those children in that preschool in that building, and we definitely need to service the vulnerable students.
Well, I'll say that the court, that's their role is to go and make sure that it's a properly legally worded question put to the public so it's clear. And that's probably, I'm guessing that's gonna be like their language maximum. That's just probably how they do it. I don't have.
So that, if I could interject, I think that's part of the code. I was looking, thank you, Mr. Wright, for helping me with this. It says here, whenever the governing body of any county determines that it is advisable to contract a debt or issue general obligation bonds of the county, it shall adopt an ordinance or resolution setting forth in brief and general terms the purpose or purposes for which the bonds are to be issued and the maximum amount of the bonds to be issued. So that's, I believe, required language.
And to your point, Ms. Davis, I mean, government's good at spending money. They can always spend more money. So they can, but they have to require another vote to approve more bonds beyond this, I guess would be the thing if they needed it. So if they need it bad enough, they could do that.
We did go before the Board of Supervisors saying that this is an estimated amount. Remember, this was that 50,000 whatever view. So I will second the motion.
Well, it's already been seconded by Mr. Frank. Well, I am not for this at all. And the reason why, I guess, is that so often as elected officials, we need to make the best decision that we can. And we were elected to, just like we talked about the books, to make those decisions. And there's so many decisions that we make that don't necessarily require that we go out to the larger community and get their opinion, because we have the information to make those decisions. To me, making this into a referendum is going to put the Board of Supervisors in a very difficult situation if the referendum is voted down. And my opinion, it's just my opinion only, is that there's a good chance it would be. I don't know what the results would be. And to me, that doesn't change our need. So you see, my point in this is regardless of how the referendum is done, besides the point of getting the community more on our side to understand why this is needed, that point I agree with, is that it doesn't matter whether they vote yes or no, we still have to build. We still have to, you saw the results, we have to have another school. We have to have more room for the students. Even if we just almost stay, we're already at over 100% or at 100% for a couple of schools already, and two others are very close. So my point is it doesn't matter what the referendum would say. We're gonna have to do it anyway. From our point of view, I'm not talking about from theirs, but from ours, it has to be done anyway. So I just like the idea of us educating the public that we all agree with. I don't think anybody, Board of Supervisors, all of us don't disagree with. We need to educate our constituents. Absolutely. I just feel that by doing this, I think that we're not going to be able to educate them at the level that we would need to. I'd much rather hear, and I feel forced. It's almost as if we could have a couple of months to have some town meetings to discuss this with the larger community, you know, and so it would get out, maybe even to have a newspaper come in, write a few articles about it, who knows? But to push it in this way, I'm just not in agreement with it, because I'm feeling though if it's voted no, that's going to put the Board of Supervisors in a very difficult situation. And again, it doesn't matter whether it's yes or no, we still have to have the school. That's my opinion only. All right, so,
Let me see one more thing.
okay, let's do one last comment and then we'll take a vote. Go ahead.
So when I had my reservations about this, thinking about whether we should, for basically all the reasons you just said, whether referendum is really a wise way to do it. I said I hear that, but then it's also the case that this is a very common way that counties decide. Seems like, but then if they do it, as far as you're talking about the education, it does involve probably like setting up a website and putting all the information out there to inform people.
Yeah, I'm not so sure it's common to do this. I know it's done. I cannot think of one, again, being on 4 other school boards, I cannot think of one time when it was put to a vote by the public. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. Well, I think in this case it is, but I can't remember when it was ever done. The decision was simply made by the county, the school board in the county. That's just my experience. All right, one last comment from anybody, Ms. Hoover?
It's a question. So this is, time is of the essence. We have a meeting in 2 more weeks. is there any way that we can kind of mull it over, speak to our Board of Supervisors and, kind of also our constituents, or do we have to decide right now if we're going to do this? We don't know.
All I can go off of is the correspondence I had with Mr. Stewart, and it sounded like it was needed this evening from us so that the Board of Supervisors could turn around and approve it tomorrow evening, and then that puts us back on our time. It keeps us on our timeline for the November 5th. If you guys remember correctly, I hope I'm saying this right, but this information is required to the county for a referendum August 1st. I think that rings a bell. So I think in order to get all of that satisfied, again, I can only speak to the email, but.
Mr. Frank, last comment.
Just want to
Davis?
clarify to the Board of Supervisors that I know that we brought the 57 million to you guys. I wasn't aware that I was going to have to vote for the referendum in order to make it happen. So if you're out there wondering, like, you guys brought it to us, why are you questioning it now? That's why I just wasn't aware of that process. I'm ultimately in my heart, I'm not for it, to be honest with you. But I feel what Matt said made impact, Mr. Rolls, is that the Board of Supervisors 4-1 voted for it. So they feel strong enough that this is the way to go forward. So, and I think we have enough time. I mean, I think for you, Mr. Bush, you just don't want to ask, like, put that out there on them because we need it anyways. And I agree with that. Like, what are we going to do if they say no? We're going to build one anyways. We're going to have to do something. Now, speaking of the Board of Supervisors, they're going to say, no, there's ways we can move kids around to different schools to offset the ratio, things of that nature. But so it is tough.
Okay, I believe everybody's had their last comment. So we're going to, obviously, this vote is going to be one at a time because we want to hear the individual votes. So we'll start with Ms. Hoover, yay or nay?
Yay.
Sir.
Yeah.
Mr. Frank? Did you say yay or nay?
Nay.
Nay. Ms. Davis?
I already said I would. Yes.
You vote yes? My vote is no. So it carries 3-2. So I will sign the resolution. It is required that the chairman of the board sign it because it is the will of the board. But please record that the vote was 3-2. All right, let's move on. Thank you for everybody's comment. Thank you, both of you. Mr. Solons, Mr. Stroud, for interjecting a little bit. I know you weren't speaking for the Board of Supervisors, as was already intimated, but you did help with some information that had occurred. Thank you. And thank you, school board. This is a very tough decision, and I thank you for all the input that you put in on it. All right, let's move on. Discussion items, employee social media use policy. Mr. Rolls, I believe that has a lot to do with what you had presented. Want to speak to it?
This is being presented as a regulation, but there's a lot of information in the scope and purpose. So it kind of struck me as perhaps preferable to consider taking the scope and purpose part and split that off into a new policy, and then make the additional details of regulation underneath it, because there wasn't really a good policy to put underneath. The current proposal is under GAD, and it's not in the packet, but I'd ask you all to just pull it up on your computer, pull up policy GAD, and look at that with me real quick.
Mr. Rolls, it's very hard for me and Ed Mr. Frank to hear you over here. I don't know if you can speak louder or into the mic more, but I can't hear you.
Thank you for saying that. Okay, so I don't know. I can go into GD and all the reasons why I don't think it belongs under there, but I mean, just there's a lot, so I don't know how much we want to try and get done tonight, honestly. But any concerns about that?
You want to change it to?
I think we just need to hire a new policy that it could be mostly filled with the scope and purpose section of this sucker, and then that becomes a new policy, and then the additional sections below, like staff members' use of social media, and everything below there could just go into a regulation. Can you hear me now?
something that might be helpful is to pull up your email that you sent us all.
Right.
Had your comments on there. If the board members could do that, I have a written copy. Sorry, I didn't make more.
Yeah,
You know when he sent it?
that was right after the last meeting when it was requested.
What date was that?
But it's also,
I will forward it to everyone right now.
Thank you.
And let me know when everybody's there.
Okay, I sent it.
Are you there, Miss Hoover? Not yet.
Oh, yeah, it came through. Okay. Thank you. Ms. Bush.
okay, so right now the proposed policy would fall underneath is called access to employee social media accounts, which, I'll read this quickly, is essentially saying that this part here is saying that we can access employees' social media accounts, which is the part that's a little bit concerning.
Okay, so your first comment, Mr. Rolls, to make it clear, is you're thinking that the file that is currently under doesn't need to be there or should be changed? Let's deal with just that first.
I'm saying, well, that's what I'm doing right now. I went to GAD, which is the policy that's being proposed to be put underneath, and I'm saying I don't think it's an appropriate policy to put it underneath. And so, and there really isn't one to put it that's appropriate. So I think the best thing would be to make an entirely new policy. So by taking the generic parts off the top of this and make that the policy, then the more specific sections down below, we can make that the regulation underneath the new policy that we create.
So you want to keep part of this in the policy and then make a new policy for some of it.
A new regulation to go under that
regulation.
Is this because you are reading this as it's giving access to employee social media accounts?
Right. So yeah,
That's just, the way I read that is, and maybe we should word it if I'm the only one reading it this way, but it's to what we already have access to, their online social, not to get in their account.
I'll read the last
You can't do
paragraph.
that by law.
Last paragraph of policy GAD says, this policy does not prohibit the school board from requesting an employee to disclose the employee's username and password.
Where's this
For
at?
the purpose, this is the last paragraph of policy
We've got
GAD.
like 21 pages here.
So it's not in the packet. You'd have to go to the policy manual and pull up policy GAD on the website.
Just go to please.
Okay, Matt, and then you're saying, what page is it? Or Mr.
Are you on policy GAD?
Uh-huh, the one that was on our agenda.
Well, the one on our agenda is a regulation to go under GAD. I'm saying go to the actual policy GAD that's above it.
I'm sorry.
Everybody there?
You go to policies on the board packet and.
Yeah, go to board docs and there's a policy. One second.
Here, I'll show you. One of the policies.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, I think we.
Okay.
We got it from somebody else, so it's probably
I see.
something that we can do with us. Once you do that, bring it back to us.
So,
So, I mean, I marked it up. I want to just talk about general things that you would like. And I guess you can put time into like rewording it if you want, just based on general feedback. I'm not going to just come up with, 20 different versions. So I just want to know generally what your thoughts are before we do that.
I did read it through, read all your comments, and I do have several things to say.
Okay.
But
can you just show me, I'm sorry, because that's important to me too, is where does it say that they have access to our usernames and passwords?
Last paragraph of policy GAD.
I
only read the first.
Hear you, Matt. Last paragraph of what?
Policy GAD.
It's actually the last sentence of that policy.
Username and password.
Yeah, let me read that whole last paragraph.
I'm on GDI.
So this is in our policy manual under GAD. This is a VSBA policy that it looks like it was last or adopted in June of 2015. And would you like me to read the last paragraph, Mr. Rules? Is that what?
Yeah, all right,
Okay.
yeah, that's fine.
All right.
It's policy, the policy does not prohibit the school board from requesting an employee to disclose the employee's username and password for the purpose of accessing a personal social media account if the employee's social media account activity is reasonably believed. All right. Did I read this?
So it also says that on the GAD, the last sentence says, if the board exercises its rights under this paragraph, the employee's username and password will only be used for the purpose of formal investigation or related proceedings.
That does need a change.
Well,
That's okay. Let me explain. So yes, I'll just read the whole thing so everyone can hear, and it's not a private discussion over here. So last paragraph is this policy does not prohibit the school board from requesting an employee to disclose the employee's username and password for the purpose of accessing a personal social media account. The employee's social media account activity is reasonably believed to be relevant to a formal investigation or a related proceeding by the Board of Allegations of a employee's violation of federal, state, or local laws or regulations or of the board's written policies. If the board exercises its rights under this paragraph, the employee's username and password will only be used for the purpose of the formal investigation or related proceeding. So when I first read this before, I thought, okay, it's just a violation of federal, state laws. Okay, well, that's reasonable enough. I mean, if there's a criminal investigation, but it does also say here, or the board's written policies. So, like,
and specifically, it says it doesn't prohibit you from requesting. Doesn't mean that they have to give it to you, and it doesn't mean that. I mean, that's a whole different layer to this. Is that all that is saying is that it gives you the opportunity to ask for it.
I think the presumption would be if you refuse. Well, okay, I read that when I first read it. I thought that sounded okay, but then as it was implemented in the regulation, it seemed like it was more problematic.
It doesn't say requested though. It doesn't say it has to. I mean, you should have like red flag waiver, but because it's really good that you noticed this. But it's worded that that we can request it if we wanted to. I don't agree with that, but I'm just saying it does say that.
Well, hang on. Let me make my point.
Has this ever happened?
Not during my time. I can't speak to historically, but no, we haven't recently asked for anyone's social media information, to my knowledge.
Okay, where are you, Matt?
I'm just looking at my notes here. In the last paragraph before the section that's titled "Staff Members' Use of Social Media," and there, I just was a little bit concerned that the potential to just write a regulation, say, well, you violated regulation, therefore now I can ask for your username and password. So I'll see violating federal and state laws or even the school board policy is a higher bar to meet. But I guess it is our habit that we approve all regulations too. So
what do you want to change?
I was comfortable with just asking for formal investigation of, criminal investigation.
Matt, the very first paragraph, the King George County School Board does not require current or prospective employees to disclose the username or password to the employee's personal social media accounts. I think we're complicating things right now. It's a good, I'm glad you mentioned it, but you also have to accept what the wording does say. Does it sound a little oof? But it's clear that it doesn't require it. We can ask, but it doesn't require it. So if you want to change something, what would you want to change on it? That we don't have the ability to ask for it? Or do you want to take off the, I saw what you were talking about, the, like a school board policy.
you know, I looked at several of your comments on here, man, and I thought some of them you just got a little too specific, and I thought that keeping it general was better. That would be my overall comment about your comments on all this as I read this. There was a couple of them that were okay, but I don't think you need to get into that specificity. Anyway, that's just my opinion. Because I was fine the way it was written.
I think he wants to take out where it says the board's written policies. They can't ask for our personal information or an employee's personal information if it breaks a board's written policy.
Is that your main point, Mr. Rowe?
I think I would caution the board too that this evening we're looking at the social media regulation. This policy, if we address it, is not on the agenda tonight.
Well, it is if you put the regulation under this policy.
The regulation is, right. I think, aren't we talking about adjusting the policy?
Well, I mean, it's been a while since I looked at it. But my thought was that we would not put it under this policy, because if you put it under there, then it's talking about accessing their social media. So I don't really want to have anything to do with accessing employees' social media. Let's just make it a policy about proper use of social media. Is essentially it. So.
Well, it protects the person doing the investigation if they have to. Well, where did you get the information? Well, we looked at your Facebook account.
If it's public, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I guess now I'm remembering. It's been, like I said, a while since I thought about this. So I'm really only concerned about what employees are doing publicly. If I can go there and see that they're doing it and it's unprofessional and inappropriate, then yeah, then there's discipline required. But if I need your username and password to figure it out, I don't know if we're saying someone's made like an anonymous account and we think we know who it is. Now we're going to start grabbing people's username and passwords to figure out who that anonymous account is owned by. I mean, that starts to feel a little concerning.
Orwellian.
Yes, there you go.
Because
I think you're.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Matt, I hear what you're saying. I just think it's kind of the mountain out of the molehill thing. I agree with you, but you're more concerned, I think, about the specifics in this, and let's keep it as general as possible. I don't think we need to be worried about that. First of all, if somebody does put something out on the internet that's inappropriate, and we end up seeing it, I think that we can deal with it at that time. There's so many nuances to who it's from. Is it anonymous? Do we know who it is? Is it an employee? How serious is it? I mean, we can't cover every one of those details. Your concern is having access to that at all.
I don't want to cover every single detail. I don't need to add any more detail than it's already here. I'm just talking about not putting it underneath the access to employees' social media accounts policy. Make a new policy, like I said, with the general information here, and then put the specific stuff below into our regulation.
Can we move?
Same amount of information.
Creates it and brings it before the board the next meeting or something.
You want to do that? Why don't you make what you're talking about?
Bring it before us. Yeah.
Maybe send it to us ahead of time so we can look at it. I mean, I realize. Pardon?
I guess it'd be in the packet.
Yeah, I do realize that you did some of that, but I personally had a hard time following everything.
Yeah, I wasn't going to rewrite it all. I mean, obviously Dr. Boyd wrote this.
Let's just do that one thing as you talked about. I think Ms. Davis's recommendation is a good one.
Mind of Matt.
Why don't you go ahead and do that and have it ready for next time, okay?
Yeah.
Make it into a separate, like you want to do, into a separate policy or separate regulation. All right, good. Thank you, Mr. Rolls. Let's move on. All right, this next item is not very much. I gave you all a copy of it, and all it is I want to go over again the superintendent's evaluation. All this is a timeline. Oh, good. It's up there on the board. You also have a copy of it. Basically, we already sent out the stakeholder survey to all the staff members and parents. You saw we did that in May. In the last meeting in June, we compiled the stakeholder survey data provided to the school board, and thank you, Ms. Higgins did that for us. And then the last meeting, that's today, I think she's already sent it out, Ms. Higgins. We, as board members, got the survey and we need to fill that out. Okay, it's important. Don't wait too long to fill that out. So by the first meeting in August, the school board will have completed, so you have from now until the first meeting in August to fill out that survey, okay? It's the same one that was sent to all the staff and parents. And then the results will be compiled, and we will discuss those results in closed session, because that's totally basically just us. So there will be a closed session discussion of our survey results. And then the superintendent's self-evaluation due to the school board. I put the first meeting in August. I believe you might have even completed that today, did you? Okay, we talked about it, but have you already sent that to us? You haven't sent, you sent it just to me? Okay. All right. Yeah, we'll see. That may be part of the closed session. We'll see, because that's basically part of the whole formative evaluation. Then the first or second meeting in September, and this depends on the SOL results. Whenever they come, as quickly as possible, we're going to have those results, and then they'll be presented to all of us. Then by the second meeting in October, the school board reviews the SOL data, finalizes the superintendent's evaluation in closed session. Then in November, we provide the evaluation of the superintendent in closed session. There's one other thing too, and there's a whole process. If you want to look at the policies, there's the regulation that was put out last year of the percentages that we did. I'm going to make at the next meeting, I was going to try to have it ready this meeting, but I just didn't have time. At the next meeting, I want to make some recommendations for changes for those. And I'll try to send you that at least a few days ahead of time, but it will definitely be in the board packet. We're talking about last year, we had discussed that one of the things we wanted to do was to reference the improvement in some of the areas rather than just simply the data the way it stands, that we felt as though there should be some improvement. So we'll have a little bit of a discussion about that at the next board meeting. Because percentages were given so much percentage for the staff survey, so much percentage for the board survey, and so on.
Yeah, the percentage discussion was fun.
The discussion what?
The percentage discussion was fun.
Was fun, yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to make some recommendations to change that slightly, but be ready to discuss that, okay? And that will be in closed session because it has to do with the superintendent's evaluation.
Mr. Chairman,
Any questions about that?
I just want to state something real quick.
Sure, go ahead.
For those who have been questioning about the evaluation of the superintendent, I just want to say that there's no employee, not the Board of Supervisors, there's no employee in King George County that I'm aware of whose evaluation is made public. The data is collected so that we can make our decisions about his evaluation. We collect it from you guys, but that doesn't mean we have to make it public. It's an evaluation of an employee. And I hope you can consider that as truth rather than vengeance.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Ms. Davis. That has been a question. I got several emails about it also, is why hasn't, because the parents got the survey and they wanted to know why hasn't that survey been made public. It will not be made public because it has to do with the evaluation of personnel, of an individual. And we don't make those things public. We talk about that to the individual. So thank you for bringing that up, Ms. Davis. You're absolutely right. All right. If there's no further any further questions about the timeline for the superintendent's evaluation? So be sure to fill out that survey, okay? It's not too much to fill out. Have that done before the next meeting. All right, committee reports. Start over here with Ms. Hoover.
I have none.
Mr. Rolls.
So we hired a new CGS director, so glad to have her on board.
Good deal. Mr. Frank? Ms. Davis?
No.
And I do not have any reports either because it's summertime. Superintendent's report.
Yes, so I'm happy to report that we have some kind of a follow-up from our retreat this summer. We've got a professional development session tomorrow with a young lady that I met and saw present. Her name is Becca Silver, and she has a blog or a, what's it called, a podcast called The Whole Educator. She's going to join us tomorrow. All of our administrators, all of our central office staff, and really I saw her present on resistance and what the concept is. And as we know, we're all getting ready to face a lot of changes on the secondary level as it pertains to cell phones, on the K-8 level as it pertains to the Literacy Act. We're probably going to face some resistance, as we all know. So what she does is a very good job of framing resistance in a different way. She talks about how resistance is kind of individuals engaged in the process and critically thinking about what they think is appropriate. So she frames it in the right way. She talks about how to work with folks that are in a level of resistance, and I think it'll be very timely. I heard it at a very timely time and quickly turned it around and want to provide it to our staff. So we'll be doing that tomorrow in the high school library. Ms. Higgins has done a wonderful job of pulling together all those parts to make that happen. So we're very excited about that tomorrow for our staff. I mentioned cell phones. Update on cell phones. We have scheduled, the high school has scheduled 2 town halls. So the first town hall is actually tomorrow, the 16th at 5:30. The second town hall is the 22nd in the high school auditorium at 5:30. So community members, please come out. We're certainly interested in any and all comments as it pertains to our new policy pertaining to cell phones. As many know now, this is a topic of conversation across the Commonwealth. And even last week, Governor Youngkin came out with an executive order preventing the use of cell phones in public schools. So at this point, we've really heard it from the General Assembly as far as creating a policy. We've heard it from our governor, and I know many school divisions across the state right now are wrestling with how to appropriately apply this policy to schools so that we relieve our students of the disruptions that cell phones create in the school system. So town halls is the most important thing there, 16th and 22nd. We certainly hope our community engages and comes out. I met with Mr. Watson today. We talked about, again, moving forward with our approach on how we intend to apply the policy. We looked at different, we talked about yonder bags at one point. We looked at different and more cost-efficient measures to use a similar type approach. So we actually ordered, I think it was about 6 total prototype options that they had on Amazon. We reviewed those today. We checked them out. We wrestled with them a little bit, tried to see, the weight of them and how easy they were to tamper with. And I think we have a good option moving forward. We'll share that with the middle school. And again, I think as we continue to talk about this and as the state continues to talk about this, I think we're going to be in a better place when we start the school year. So I'm happy about that. I'll stop right there. Was there any questions that board members may have about that right now? I'll continue to update the board at every single meeting as it pertains to the small conversations that we're having. I'm sure I'll have more information following our town halls. And I know that once the school year starts, I'll report back to the board on where we stand with implementing the policy. But is there anything right now that the board would like specific feedback on?
Dr. Ward, you've got several options to the yonder bags. Are we going to be able to use the ESSER funds to pay for those prior to the 30th of September?
Yes, I believe we will be able to do that. I'll double check. I know that we'll have enough funds available. And again, this is not a practice where we're going to buy 2,500 of these items and issue them on the front end. This is going to be similar to the Stafford approach that was discussed at the last board meeting, where if a student is an habitual or even first violator of the policy, we would issue, I say bags because that's what we're familiar with, but many of these are cases. They have there's a master lock version. Some of them are soft cases. I don't mind telling you now, I think we preferred some of the harder cases. I think they're have a greater level of durability. So to answer your question specifically, I think we will have the funds available to purchase the number we need on the front end to implement the policy that we have in mind, or the approach that we have in mind, excuse me.
What were the differences in prices, like for the hard cases? Were they just generally more expensive or cheaper?
So I think they go as low as $10 a piece, and they go as high as $25 a piece. So again, if you compare that to the yonder bags, they were about $30 a piece. And again, I don't think that Yonder is interested in allowing us to use it in the fashion that we wanted to use it in. They're very much interested in the whole school approach of using it. So it was between $10 and $25.
So last time when we had the presentation, you're saying it was still in progress. So now they've finalized the implementation approach for all the schools.
I think we're getting closer to finalization. I think these town hall meetings are going to be valuable. I think even when we issued the policy on the front end, we got a great information back from the community. I'm hoping that the community is just as engaged. I know it's still summertime, but I think the end result is going to be better, similar to our conversations about the books, if we have folks engaged in the process. So I think it'll be good if that's the case with the town halls.
Out of the town halls, the idea is to document the implementation plan and get that pushed to the website. So when parents are asking, so how's this work, it'll be up there for them to see.
Absolutely. So if there's no other questions about cell phones, this is an important change. We have sat down with both school administrators. This is on the secondary, the middle school and high school. We've also sat down with transportation. We've had a lot of conversations about this. What we desire to do next year is reverse the start times and end times for the middle school and high school. So right now, the middle school starts just before the high school starts. What we want to do is have the high school start, and when I'm talking, it's minutes before the middle school this coming year, because I think what that's going to do is attempt to solve a problem that we've had for many years in King George County. Right now, what happens, and you will hear it, I promise you, as soon as the school year starts, that intersection of 3 and 205 there, right in front of the middle school where Sheets is, gets entirely backed up with school buses, school traffic, and base traffic and everything else. The traditional approach, what has happened is because we start the middle school first, those buses drop off at the middle school first. They leave the middle school, get stuck at that light at 3 and 205, have to take a left turn, get stuck at the light at 3 and Fox's Way to turn into the high school, again taking a left turn, and then getting to the high school second. We'd like to reverse that process because what that would do would allow our buses to leave the high school, take a right-hand turn, not having to wait for the light, again getting to that intersection at 205, taking another right-hand turn, and it would help us better bypass those two lights, and we're hoping that would alleviate all of that traffic that everyone is so accustomed to know is going to happen here on the first day of school. Question.
They go through like where the tennis courts are.
Well, they can't right now because that turn is not wide enough to accept buses. So does that make sense? So if you kind of picture that turn, you first have to take that turn through the fence line. So if you're driving the bus right towards the tennis courts from the middle school.
No, I'm talking from the high school. Oh, you're talking about leaving middle school and going.
Either way, yeah.
I'm talking about from high school to middle school.
Either way, it's the turn. It's the turn on the corner of the tennis courts there that will not accept a turn by a bus. It's too narrow.
Is it because of the tennis courts?
Well, if the tennis courts were moved.
It's narrow, but it's got a lot of length. Not a lot, but it's got room to expand.
We hope again.
Where the chain is where I'm talking. There used to be a chain there that would block people from driving through it.
It's in between the chains, right? So you've got if let's go from the high school. If you're coming from the high school and you go up that hill and you pass the tennis courts on your left-hand side and you're driving directly towards the old vocational building, it's that left-hand turn right there that is the turning radius does not allow for a bus to make that turn as it currently sits. That would be a great idea, and that's really kind of what we were hoping comes out of that inter-campus traffic pattern. We get all of those school buses and all of the school traffic off of there in the future. Unfortunately, that's not going to be in place by the start of the school year. Maybe down the road into the future, we certainly hope. But I think in the short term, this option of allowing the buses to take two rights to get to the middle school as opposed to getting stuck at two lights is going to help all of that traffic when the school year starts. So that's the desire, and hopefully that's everybody's on the same page with that.
There's also the old road.
Yeah.
That leaves behind the tire store. That used to be 301. Maybe you make it a pathway there for the buses. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Yeah. No, all of those those are the best options if we can figure them out. There's some topography issues there, and we hope to get those worked out in the future if we can get that inter-campus traffic route established. But right now, the desire is to, again, just shuffle those two start times. So again, it won't be great.
You say is like 10 minutes or?
Yeah, it's roughly 10 minutes. So to give you specific times, next year the high school would start at 7:20, the middle school would start at 7:30. And again, this is just almost opposite of what it's been in the past. And this is going to accommodate not only for our general education buses, but our special education buses. And I think it's, again, no matter what, when we start the school year, because it's a traffic, it's still going to be a couple days of everyone getting used to this, all of the traffic that has not been on the roads all summer. However, I think once this traffic pattern is established, it should save us a lot of time and alleviate a lot of that traffic, hopefully. And the perfect solution is to get that inter-campus traffic route straight. But I think in the short term, this is something that will improve that situation for our community. Outside of that, again, I want to extend the offer to all board members. Anytime anyone has an available minute, if you want to go see the modular unit at Potomac Elementary School, it's beautiful. And then finally, I'll just give you a sense of realization that I had this morning when I came back, and I'm first day back from vacation with my family. It is officially 2.5 weeks until teachers start and 4 weeks until students start. So if you think that it's been a slow summer, if you think that, I certainly don't, but if you might have that perception, it's getting ready to heat up real quick here in the next few weeks. So thank you, Mr. Chair, board members, and that's my remarks.
I will start at this end. Mr. Frank, your board comment?
I'd just like to thank Just like to thank everybody who came out tonight and spoke. The members of the Board of Supervisors who were here, we definitely are thankful for your support, and hopefully we can keep getting that. Pastor Davis, thank you there. Mrs. Dodge, thank you. On 17 August, Mr. Sullins and I and Mrs. Davis and Mr. Davis are having a town hall at the library, and it'll go from 10 until 12. So hopefully we can get people out there to answer their questions. As far as the books are concerned, you know, you've heard me say this more than once. We've been playing with this for way too long. It's time for it to come to an end. So we, you know, the voters of King George County hired us to find solutions to the problems that we have. And that's what leadership is, it's just finding solutions. And we need to find a solution to this, and a solution that we can stick to. And we have until, I guess, the middle of August to do that. So we're definitely going to be working on that and working toward that. As far as the phone policy goes, I just hope that what we're doing is going to work. I keep thinking about if we have an alcoholic in our family, we don't put a bottle of whiskey in his backpack and send him away and say, don't touch it all day. If we have a addict in our family, we don't put drugs in his backpack and send him away and say, don't touch it all day. And how many of our kids are addicted to their phones? But we're going to put that in their backpack and say, don't touch it all day. I'm just not sure that this is the right approach, but hopefully we'll make it work. That's all I have.
David?
Mr. Stroud, thank you for coming in today, because I know that took a lot of time. All of you, really. We had a big crowd here today. Pastor Davis, the hard decisions are made. It's true, and that's why this book thing bothers me the most, to be honest. Ms. Dodge, thank you for the courage to speak out with what you feel is correct. But the number one thing you said that stood out to me was, what is the educational value? Bill Davis, conflict is growth. We don't like conflict. Nobody likes conflict. Well, he might, but I don't. But we need people to stand up like that. Everybody has a purpose on this earth. Colin, Mr. Roberts, thank you for when you spoke today. You spoke from your heart, and what's the word? You were very vulnerable, and I appreciate that. And especially from a man, showing in this world that it is okay to be manly and vulnerable. So thank you for that, and charging us to do what is right. Jolene Weaver, a lot of what you feel is shared. Early exposure things. Some of these books would be, if they were made into a movie, they would be pornography on film. Mr. Stroud, you're correct with leadership. Everything starts with leadership, and we are the head of the school. So it starts with us. And so you're correct with that charge. Even, what did you say? You said military, if you were to harm kids in the military, even jail folks don't like kids being harmed. You know what I mean? Like they send a pervert to jail, they get beat up. And I was debating whether I wanted to share this, but I am a child of sexual abuse, most up until I was 16 years old. And we aren't being looked at as what's it do to a child that grew up like I did, where it was normal. And then you don't even realize until you get older and you're dealing with all these things and you need help to wonder where this is coming from. And it stemmed from people who were in charge of me looking at pornography in front of me and things of that nature. But I don't matter. Let me see. Madison Morgan spoke, the girl who gave the, what is that called? What was it? A presentation, yeah. Her personality I loved. I just fell in love with her personality. I spoke to her down there, Madison Morgan. So she stated you can do anything, and I do believe that we can do anything if we just put one step forward. Also, I want to charge the folks that I know for a fact that your boss, your superintendent, has pleaded with you guys to follow policy, and you're not. How do you feel that he has to stand up here and deal with, not holding you accountable because you won't just do what the rules are? How do you expect kids to follow your rules if you can't even follow policy, the rules? You want to make your own rules, go start your own school. Anywhere you work, you're going to have rules. And you have to follow them. There's many rules I don't like, I have to follow. I don't like that we harbor perverted books in the library, but that was a compromise I made. So I'm asking, you have a very kind boss, a very kind superintendent. I would ask that you can at least follow the policy and rules. Take that pressure off him. You're adults with degrees. That's what you keep saying. So let's act like it. My personal opinion, I know Holly Roberts has been a pain in the rear for many of y'all. I'm thankful that she has the courage to stand for what she thinks is right until the very end. But I personally feel like we owe her an apology because we're the school board and we're the schools who she had her kids in our school. She no longer does because of us. And the way we treated her, the way we treated a parent who came before us, we mocked her, we laughed at her, we ganged up on her. I don't care. That is what happened. Okay. And we owe her an apology, whether we agree with her or not. We don't have to agree with her to treat her with kindness and have a different view of how she feels about things. I personally apologize to Holly Roberts and her family that she had to take her kids out of our school because she did not feel like we valued her as a parent in this community.
Sewer?
I just wanted to thank everybody for coming out. I appreciate all the attendance, and I really hope and wish that in the future we would have that kind of attendance so that people do know what's going on and are aware. Like we were talking about the preschool and the construction today, and unfortunately, a lot of people had left and they were here for the book situation. So I encourage the public to please pay more attention, and then when something comes up, they're not surprised. But thank you to every citizen in the county who supports us and comes out and wants the best for our students as well. And for every teacher and presenter and student that showed up today, you are valued and we appreciate you, and we're trying to do the right thing. And I'm grateful to have the opportunity to be a leader.
Also say I always appreciate it when we have members of citizens from the county come and share with us their thoughts and feelings, and very powerful and impactful words you shared today. So appreciate that. And I also want to thank. I mean, it's really great to hear from the Tri-County Soil and Water. Madison came out and spoke to us, and it was like good potential there to take advantage of what they're offering us there for free. And I want to thank Dr. Howard again for all the work she did getting the Parent Resource Center going. I think that's going to be a great resource for us. Glad that we have that now. And like I said, the only one comment that I'll refer to as from public comments is the idea that we're just kicking the can down with the books. And yes, I understand. I really appreciate. I want to say first, I appreciate all the work you did, Dr. Boyd, and your team to try to deal with that this past year. And I know it's very much the proper role of the superintendent to try to make things just get everyone to harmonize and have the unity. So trying to take an approach that's the least impactful possible. I understand that, but in a lot of ways, we as a school board kind of left you out there, and some of these hard calls are not necessarily yours to make. It's the school board to do it and take the heat off you and make the hard calls. And so I think now we have a date. We're going to do that August 19th. So I'm glad we're doing that. It'll be a positive thing for the division. Last thing is SOQs. I think it's a valuable thing for us all to be more educated about. I know I want to be more educated about all those. The most I've ever heard about them was at the last SBMA conference that I went to, and they actually offer SOQ training. So actually, I encourage you all to join the SBMA if you haven't yet, and consider taking their SOQ training. It's one of the many things that they offer. That's all.
All right, thank you. I want to also thank all the people that made presentation, and then also Ms. Howard, Ms. Hill for all of the work that they do, and they do such a good job. Ms. Davis and cafeteria and all that work, and especially the way she's able to find money from everywhere. That's really astounding. Also, I want to thank all the parents that did come out and make comments, and I think I know the general feeling of the five of us on here, we probably agreed with most of what was said. It's a difficult situation. I appreciate Dr. Boyd in that when books do come into his purview to make a final decision about, if it's appealed at a lower level, he has oftentimes made those very tough decisions. And he already outlined a little bit that many of those books are taken off the shelf. They are put in a place that the students do not have access unless the parent agrees. Which I know most of the people here tonight would not agree for their child to read that. But the fact that they won't be on the shelves, I think, is pretty important. I think the real decision we're going to have to make as a board next month is going to be, we're already, as soon as we find out those books, we do identify them as sexually explicit. And Dr. Boyd makes a decision if they come to us, besides those books being in a restricted place that the students can't get to unless the parents agree to it, our decision is going to be, does that mean they're thrown away? Does that mean they're banned? That's a pretty big decision, and I do believe that what we've done so far is abided by a lot of the idea that the governor had and allowing the parents to make those decisions. And it's sad that we're in this situation. It's sad that those books end up in the library in the first place many times. But we have to also remember the large number of books that do come to the library, and that it's difficult for some of the librarians to be able to, obviously they're not going to read all those books. And then also I think Dr. Boyd had a very good point about there are some differences of opinion about what sexually explicit would be. I think nobody would disagree with some of these that are under discussion, are probably sexually explicit, but there are some opinions that do vary. You mentioned Romeo and Juliet and some of the other things, how some people would say that that's sexually explicit and it should not be there. Actually, I remember that discussion. I'm probably, maybe Mr. Frank, we're the same age. I remember that discussion actually happening when I was in school back in the 60s about Romeo and Juliet as to whether it should be in the library or not. Those are tough things. And so I encourage the parents that made comments tonight, maybe they'll come back next month and we'll hear from them again, and hopefully we'll put an end to this. And maybe even after those two appeals, maybe we'll end up even coming up with a little changes in some policies in the way we approach this. Appreciate all of you school board members. It was some tough discussions tonight. We went through a lot of difficult situations, especially, and thank you for the two board of supervisors, actually three that were here. Appreciate their attendance. I know that all of us as board members, we need to try to attend more board of supervisors meetings. And I appreciate you, Mr. Stroud. You're sitting here for a little over 3 hours. And thank you for that. I appreciate it very much. It's recognized and appreciated. I know there's so many more things, but I agree with most everything that the board has already said. Ms. Davis, you shared some very personal things, and thank you for doing that. Know that we're as sympathetic as we can be with it. Thank you. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
We adjourn.
A second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Adjourn, thank you.